All right, today's the day. Welcome to round one of the 2024 MLB draft. The Cardinals have a top 10 pick for the first time since 1998, which is wild. We're going to be watching the draft today, breaking down the picks as they go through, breaking down what the Cardinals do at number 7 overall. Really excited for this today and excited for all of you who joined us on this episode of Dealing the Cards. Hey, we got the usual crew here, joined by Kareem as well. Kareem, oh, you're this way, Kareem. Awesome to have you on, man. Really excited you could join us for this. Kareem's going to be with us for most of the stream. We also have a couple of guests who will be popping on as well at different points in the live stream. Again, if you're in the chat now, let us know what you're thinking. We'd love to hear what you think the Cardinals are going to do at number 7. We're really excited because most times you go into a draft as a Cardinal fan and it's like, okay, they've got like the 18th pick, the 23rd pick, 25th pick. Like, you're kind of just waiting to see what falls there. And maybe you have a couple ideas of what they could potentially do. And it's never really like that superstar talent unless there's something crazy happens. And obviously the MLB draft, especially of all sports drafts, you can go in the 5th round and end up being the second round. You can be Gunnar Henderson, right? But picking in the top 10 gives you the opportunity to pick talents that just really aren't available, at least industry-wide wise, at number 19 or whatever. So this is a really significant pick for the Cardinals tonight. Let's kick over to Kareem first. What is the number one thing you're watching for as the draft is about to get underway here?
It's JJ Wetherholt. Is he going to go 1? He's my personal favorite option for the Cardinals. I tweeted him out today in my annual, draft wish for the Cardinals. And if he's available at 7, I think the Cardinals would heavily consider him. And that's really what I'm hoping. It does seem like Wetherholt is going to go 1 just based on all the mock drafts, but I'm praying it's Bazana, and hopefully Wetherholt makes his way to the pick 7.
Yeah. Andrew, we all know who you're looking out for right now, and he's probably going to go before the Cardinals pick, but I've seen some stuff today that a two-way player may be falling to number 7. Andrew, tell us more about what you're looking for in the draft here.
Yeah, I mean, it's all fun for me. Jack Caglione, two-way player, left-handed pitcher for Florida and like DH first baseman type, just hits for power, just like that's what he does, and has some holes in his swing, but like that power will play hopefully at any level. I guess that remains to be seen how he adjusts to the minors, if he can stop chasing and striking out maybe as much, but he's got a huge upside. Could be like an Aaron Judge type power one day. If he can figure out his swing, and I'm really excited to see where he ends up. Probably not going to play both ways. I think he might have blown out his arm in his last start. So I don't think he's going to be a two-way guy like Ohtani, but it's fun to dream on. And hey, maybe he'll get a start in the low minors if the Cardinals draft him. Mo told me no though, so I applaud him. So
yeah, that was tough. But to be fair, he was talking about there's no way a shortstop, something like that's going to play. Caglione's got the profile of first baseman DH, so if it was another organization, maybe. But I don't think
Mo will do it. Maybe Heim will do it when Mo steps down at the end of the year.
Hey, maybe we'll talk some Heim tonight, because I feel like Mo was just kind of like putting it on a silver platter on Saturday. But Sandy, what are you looking for tonight as we're getting underway?
I don't know. I'm going into this kind of conflicted. I don't even know who I want the Cardinals to take. I've really gone back and forth. It's tough. I'm not as high on Caglione. I know the bat is there, but I want to see them take somebody who could potentially be a 5-tool guy like Wetherholt if he's available, or maybe one of these other guys. Montgomery comes to mind as somebody who's a little more interesting. But also, I'm really interested in the 2 college pitchers we've got. So Chase Burns and Hagen Smith seem to be the top of the college arms, the clear best 2. But it's an open question as to whether either will be available. I've seen mocks that have them going with the Cardinals, after the Cardinals, before the Cardinals. Who really knows? It feels like we have less clarity entering this draft than we normally do. So it's going to be interesting. I'm conflicted. I'm glad I'm not the one making decisions, because it's going to be really tough to know exactly who to go with. And obviously, fans are going to be pretending that they would have done whatever works out best in a few years anyway. So GMs are going to hear it no matter who they take.
I know, right? How did no one in the first round know Gunnar Henderson? I mean, actually, there's probably people who knew it was going to be that good. But I always find it funny afterwards. It's like the Cardinals, it's like every team in baseball passed on a lot of players a lot of times. So, anyways.
It actually didn't. So
I know the Angels went right before us, actually. So
that's true. What does hurt more, and it's a question I do want to throw around a little bit, is you did a couple years ago have Zach Thompson go right before George Kirby, right? Like, you've had some interesting first round picks from Randy Flores. Like, the 2020 draft was obviously a slam dunk home run. it's looking better and better as the days go on. But Mo kind of pointed to it a little bit at Blogger Data. This is a really important pick, and obviously you're going to say that when you're drafting within the top 10, and you never really get to do that. And every first round pick matters a lot, but it kind of was with a little flavor of like, hey, Randy really needs to nail this one. How are we feeling about the Cardinals? Like, are we trusting their ability to get this one right, Kareem? Are you feeling good about whatever direction they go in? I trust what they're going to do. Or, I mean, it's hard to get it wrong talent-wise this high up in the draft. There's just a lot of guys up there, and maybe there isn't a consensus number one like a Paul Skeens coming into this, but there are 7, 8 guys that you feel really good about. So whatever you get at 7, it kind of sucks that you don't get necessarily your choice of it, right? If the Cardinals had stayed at number 5, there probably is a really good chance to get one of Burns, Smith, or Wetherholt. Now they're kind of fingers crossed these type of talents fall to them and they don't have to go after the prep route or something. But are you feeling confident about what Randy Flores and his team can do tonight, or are you going to hold your kind of your assessment until you actually see the pick come through?
Yeah, I'm confident. I think the top of the draft, I'd say the first, top 10 players, it's pretty good. But the overall depth of the class has been really criticized this year. It's not particularly strong, but that top 10 picks is going to be a lot of talented players. And I do think the Cardinals are going to land one of those guys. I think the biggest thing to watch is going to be the picks after this first round pick, maximizing value in not such a strong class. So I do think they're going to land a really talented player in the first round. If I had to guess right now, and just throw out a name, I think Hagen Smith's getting a lot of buzz with the Cardinals right now, if he's available. We've also seen them attached to Bryce Rayner, and I hope they don't go that route. But yeah, again, he's a very talented player, performed at a really bit. We obviously know Harvard Westlake. They're a big time program. A lot of baseball players from there. He's playing against very, very good, talented players. So I do like Rayner a little bit more than Griffin, and the Cardinals seem to lean that way as well. But my preference would be to go with one of these college bats. But at the end of the day, we're going to get a very talented player with this first round pick.
Yeah, Kareem, you mentioned Rayner and Griffin. Obviously, those are some of the top prep guys in the draft. Can you explain for people what it's like, the decision between going with a college pick or a prep pick, kind of how that tracks developmentally? What are different expectations we should have if the Cardinals decide to go with a prep player? It won't be a prep arm, probably a prep position player this year if they go that route. But kind of just what's the difference there?
Yeah, so these college guys are just a few years ahead in their development. Yeah. And it's just a little safer because we have the data against, higher level talent in college as opposed to high school. So it's just easier to evaluate, in my opinion. But these two guys at the top, Rayner and Griffin, they're very talented. It's just some of the college bats at the top are a little safer.
Yeah. So something else too, I think we've got people pouring in. We can kind of address this a couple different times through the stream because not everyone's super in tune with the MLB draft, right? Like even if you're a casual sports fan, you kind of are invested in the NFL draft or the NBA draft. You know how those things work. The MLB draft can be confusing to people. Like sometimes you'll see on a comment section where it's like, why don't the Cardinals trade the 7th pick? Well, it's like you can't do that in the MLB. And it's like, oh, why would a team pick the 20th ranked player at the number 10 overall pick? Well, it's like, well, there's such a thing as underslot deals. There's a variety of the sort of different kinds of players you target and what you're looking for developmentally. So Kareem, would you mind diving a little bit too about kind of the thought process of some of these teams we'll see here where like tonight, number one of the reasons why we don't know who's going number 1 is the Guardians are potentially going to go under slot here. And instead of taking the consensus number 1 or number 2 player on everyone's boards, they're taking a guy that's as talented as those guys, but is maybe not the 1 or 2 best player in the class, at least consensus wise on rankings, because they can maybe save some money here. Why would a team look at something like that?
Yeah, so the MLB draft's a lot more nuanced than other drafts. All these teams are working with a bonus pool, and each selected pick has a certain amount of money, but you can obviously go higher or lower and just adjust based on who's available later in the draft. What you'll see a lot of times is a player would pick a college player. Let me just give the example of Michael McGreevy a few years ago. The Cardinals took him under slot to save a little bit of money, and with their next pick, they took a high school guy in Joshua Baez that fell to them, and they went over slot with him, spending a little bit more money. And yeah, it's just about dispersing the money out into multiple players as opposed to just putting it all into one guy.
Yeah. And it's also interesting to note, like, some of these guys have leverage, right? Like a Rainer, if he falls to pick 17 and he doesn't like the bonus money, he can go to college and come back and get back into the draft later, right? You don't have that in the NFL or the NBA. You can't get drafted number 15 overall and be like, psych, I'm going back to college. Like, players have a little bit of more of ability to kind of control a little bit of what they're doing here. So when you're going the college route as well, that's usually a little bit of the safe route too, is you're expecting signability to be a little bit easier as well. It's also interesting to know, I didn't realize this today, Derek Gould put it out, that I think the Cardinals are one of only 4 teams in how the new bonus pool system works to ever go above their bonus pool and pay into the penalties to sign a class. So it's interesting to note that like the Cardinals are willing to spend money when it comes to their draft pools if they feel needed. Something that we kind of talked about earlier but haven't really addressed is they don't have a second round pick this year because of the Sonny Gray signing. Kareem, to your point earlier, because it's maybe seen as a little bit of a weaker draft in the later rounds, maybe that's not as huge of a deal as it could have been in other years. And all of it depends on how much you value that pick versus getting a player like Sonny Gray. It is interesting, though, that 2 straight years they've lost their second round pick, Wilson Contreras and now Sonny Gray. So things like that can contribute to not necessarily pumping in as much talent to your farm system as needed. But speaking as the talent, though, Sandy, I'll throw this to you first, and then we can all kind of go around. But I think if you look at Twitter, everyone's like, hey, you have to get a frontline arm, right? Like the Cardinals need pitching. But remember, this is the MLB draft, not the NFL draft. This player is, unless you're Paul Skeens, you're usually not going to be in the major leagues the very next year. You're looking at a player you're drafting now for 2026, 2027, 2028. You're looking at the future here. And needs aren't necessarily the biggest deal when you're picking, especially this high in the draft. And you look at the Cardinals farm system right now, and personally, I'm way more excited about the arms in the system than I am the bats. So, like, positionally wise, again, the Cardinals, I think we can probably all agree they need to go best available here. But what are you like, Sandy, when you look at the farm system now? What are the needs? What are the areas of weakness and areas of strengths you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned that the pitching has been impressive, intriguing this year, whatnot. Cooper Jerpy, Quinn Matthews, 2 of the fastest rising prospects, not just in our system, but in MLB as a whole right now. Quinn Matthews has kind of taken things by storm. He's already in the top 100 over at MLB Pipeline. That's really exciting to see. He's getting a lot of national attention. And then even farther down in the system, guys like Lynn, I believe he was with Palm Beach to start the year, Saladin. Some of these guys are really exciting. They've got big arms. And the Cardinals have done really well on that front over the last few years. They're much weaker on the position player side. And some of the spots they're weakest, it feels like there are answers there. So, for example, center field, right? Like the answer is Victor Scott. But Victor Scott's had a really tough year at Memphis. It didn't look good at the MLB level. Granted, he's young. He's got a lot of time. We're not worried about his development just yet. But after him, there's not a lot in center field. Juan Bin Cho could maybe stick in center, but he feels like a corner outfielder to me. There are other questions in the infield for sure, over at third base, perhaps. So I want to see the Cardinals go with an athletic player. JJ Wetherholt's intriguing to me because maybe he sticks at short, but probably not. And a guy like that has the potential to go to second or third, or even move to a corner outfield spot at some point. Although I don't know how they feel about him going to the outfield. I haven't read up on that specifically. But I'm hoping the Cardinals go best available and that they go with a guy with athleticism who they can then plug wherever they need him. You know, that's something they've done well in recent years. Nolan Gorman, for example, was a third baseman, but when he comes up, they said, we don't need a third baseman right now. We have Arenado. We need you to go stick at second. Now he's the everyday second baseman. So I really hope the Cardinals can do something like that.
Yeah, Kareem, how are you feeling about the system right now? Like, what would you say are the strengths? Well, first, give me kind of a little bit of what your overall view of the system is. Are you thinking it's like a bottom third, middle of the pack, upper third system? And then what are the strengths and weaknesses you're seeing among their young talent?
Yeah, so I'd say they're middle of the pack right now, skewing towards the lower end. But there's been a lot of positives in terms of pitchers. Sandy mentioned Darlin Saladin. He's a guy that I'm huge on. Very flat, vertical approach angle fastball. Still working on the off speed, but when you have a fastball that great, it puts people on your radar. And he's done that this year, performing well. And then obviously, when you look at Quinn Matthews, a guy last year they took in the 4th round, was sitting low 90s, is now sitting mid 90s. So adding 4 ticks to his velocity while also having good characteristics on the fastball, improving the slider. The changeup is still a elite pitch, much like what it was in college. So those 2 guys stand out. Cooper Jerpy, another guy that I'm huge on. So I do think the state of pitching prospects in the system is better than position players. And if I had to focus on like a specific area, I would say middle infield is probably the weakest in the organization right now. And as I said, if Weatherholt's there, that's going to be a huge boost because he's a guy that's handled his own at shortstop, probably fits best at second base due to his arm strength. But you plug that middle infielder into that farm system, your position player depth's looking a lot stronger.
Yeah, that's all super helpful. We'll get into a little bit more of this conversation as well. And I know we really haven't addressed many comments as we're going through. 122 in here right now, which is super awesome. Thanks for the support so far. If you're watching right now, like the stream. It helps us out a ton. It helps to get out to more people. And it's just, anyways, helpful for our content. So if you're watching now, please hit the like button, subscribe if this is your first time as well or want more Cardinals content. We will get to more comments and stuff as well. We're trying to fire hose some of these bigger points as we're going through. But obviously, as the draft's getting going, we'll be able to dissect players a little bit more specifically and answer some more specific questions. But we did want to take a quick moment to thank one of our sponsors for this episode. And one of our sponsors you'll see in a lot of our graphics as well this year. It's 314 Sports Card Collectibles. And if you're not familiar with 314, it's located on 9640 Olive Boulevard in Olivet. And it's open 10 to 5 on Monday through Fridays and 9 to 4 on Saturdays. So if you're interested in buying cards, selling cards, trading cards, they do sports cards and Pokemon cards as well. They have the newest selections of packs, boxes, and single cards of local players and stars around the league. So I know I used to be really big into trading cards when I was younger, and then it felt like it kind of went out of fad for a while. And then it feels like it's really popped up recently. Like you even have podcasts where people just break down sports cards and the value of them and everything. My dad recently got me a Victor Scott signed one, which is kind of fun. He just buys me all his Cardinals stuff all the time. But so friend of the pod right here, Victor Scott. But if I want to quickly ask all three of you, if you had like one, maybe a card to invest in right now where you're like, hey, I want this player because I think at some point this card's going to be worth something. Andrews is going to be one it's going to be a buy high here for him because he's just going to think the card's going to keep going up in price here. But Sandy, if there was like one young player, Major League Baseball right now, where you're like, I want their card because I think in a couple of years here they're going to pop off. Who's the guy for you?
Well, it's hard not to say Mason Wynn right now as a Cardinals fan. I think you can make the case that he's the most exciting rookie the Cardinals have had in a long time. Not just in terms of performance, because we've had rookies be good, but like Mason Wynn is exciting to watch. He is fun. He's awesome. He's toolsy. He's just so fun to watch. Now he's coming out of the leadoff spot, flashy glove at shortstop. Obviously, you've got the big arm. I could see Mason Wynn being an all-star down the line. He's just awesome. He's having a great year as a rookie. He's not going to win the Rookie of the Year with how Paul Skeens is playing right now, but he's got a shot to finish top 3, and so that's amazing. So I'll say Mason Wynn, maybe Alec Burleson too. He's really fun to watch, personal favorite of mine now. But one of those two.
I'll go prospect wise. I'm really starting to get into Max Clark a lot because there's so many guys from that draft that are really exciting and that have already made it to the major leagues. And he was the high school pick from Detroit. And so it's kind of like, oh, like what's going on here? And honestly, it could feel like that with this draft if the Cardinals go high school here, where you've got some of these college guys who rise through the ranks a little bit quicker, and you might have Rayner in the lower levels for a little while. But Clark's really fun to me, and so I don't know anything about card value, so I don't know what it's worth. But I'm gonna buy on his stock now and see what happens long term. Andrew, we all know what direction you would go if you were looking to invest in a card right now. Who's the guy?
There's this Angels card with 3 of their players: Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, and Albert Pujols.
How much is it worth?
I think it's worth like $32,000. So it's a little bit out of my price range, just a little bit. But yeah, looks like Rob Manfred's on the stage. So
okay. Real quick before Manfred gives his little spiel here, Kareem, what's like a young player in baseball? It doesn't have to be Cardinal related that you'd be like, I'm investing in their stock now.
Putting me on the hot seat.
Yeah.
You know what? A guy that really impressed me at the Futures game, Brandon Sproat. He's got a fastball that's, sits in the mid-90s. He's a guy that I really like.
Yeah. Anyway, so again, sports cards, really fun if that's your thing, or even if you just want to get into it and look it out a little. Oh, who's that?
Tink Kentz.
Tink. Okay, we got Tink and Victor today. Come on. Well, visit our friends over at 314 Sports Cards. You can find them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Instagram's their big place where they post a lot of their deals and stuff going on. Find them online as well, and you can go visit them in the store in St. Louis. So thanks to 314 again for sponsoring this episode. So MLB draft is finally kind of getting underway. I'm guessing there's going to be a little bit of time here. It looks like Manfred's kind of previewing the night a little bit, so the Guardians will be on the clock. Maybe we give predictions now. I know we kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. Oh gosh, Guardians like Josh's Mo Waters Cup. Yeah. It's pretty valuable. It will take an underslot deal too. You're welcome, Guardians. But who I'm going to say they're probably going to pick JJ, and I'm super disappointed because I think if they go JJ here, I think the board is going to fall really weird for what the Cardinals want here. I think if it's Bazana, there's a chance there's a really helpful talent here, because you could argue if Wetherholt goes 1 here, but obviously Bazana's not falling. So now you already have 2 of the top most talented guys off the board already. When if Bazana goes 1, you might see Wetherholt fall more. Kareem, are you thinking the pick's going to be Wetherholt here too?
Yeah, I think about a 70% chance it's Wetherholt. Everyone's mocking them with Wetherholt now. It definitely seems like it's going to happen. But yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Apparently it's leaked. So chat, let us know what you think. Well, we're gonna err on the side of we're not gonna address leaks, because I know some of you are watching along too, and I know there's some people who really don't like that. So, but if there's a consensus in the chat, you just want us to get to the news right away, let us know in the chat. Anyways, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut since I saw already. Andrew, you can't either. Sandy, did you see the leak or no?
I just saw it. Thanks to Andrew.
See, you can't say
my bad.
anything
I just
either.
put it in the private chat. I didn't know I wasn't supposed
It's
to.
okay. I was looking.
All you got to see is my facial expression.
I mean, I'm also just on Twitter like right now.
That's true.
I'm the one making all these
dangerous.
graphics. You'll see some graphics coming up on the screen, so I kind of do need to see the leaks, so I just get on top of it. But
Yeah.
Oh my
Well,
God.
okay, I'll break the news. Bronny James went number 1 to the Cleveland Guardians.
They just
Hashtag the
put Andrew
return.
Wang as a two-way
Hashtag the
player.
return. Bronny's gonna bring a championship to Cleveland.
Does that mean LeBron now has to play for the Guardians instead of the Cavs? Isn't he going wherever his son goes? Wait, that would be awesome. If that was a real thing, if he was actually going to do that, if like an MLB team picked Bronny. So now
Like
they get to have
Kyler Murray all over again. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Can you think that's wild? I think back to that, and it's like an NFL quarterback got picked. What was he, like number 9 in that draft by the A's? And everyone knew he wasn't
Kyler
gonna
Murray.
play. Yeah.
No, I don't think people knew. Like from what I gathered, I don't think they knew. They just let him go back.
Oh, it did. Yeah, I forgot. It happened after. Yeah, you're right.
That was
You're
before
right.
he won the Heisman. He went
Yeah,
back,
you're
and
right.
people were like, "Oh, he's an intriguing college player," but no one thought he was going pro yet.
Yeah.
Maybe people thought he had a chance to, but he was gonna play baseball.
Everyone should have known when he's under Lincoln Riley, he's going to be an NFL quarterback right there. But this isn't NFL draft coverage. This is MLB. So, anyways, okay. Well, we'll hold off. I'm not really seeing anyone say anything that they've seen the pick. So, if you
I saw a
guys,
couple people say it in the chat earlier.
okay.
But
I don't think. What do we think, guys? I think we should probably hold off and wait for it to be official. But I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, we don't know for sure just yet, but it seems like we know.
yeah,
I don't know. Kareem, I'll let you be the deciding vote. You can go ahead and talk about it, or we can wait a little bit and just kind of,
Kareem looks really
Yeah,
happy. Maybe we should talk about it.
Okay, just go for it. So Andrew, who have we seen that it's probably going to be? And I don't know, who'd you see the source was on that?
multiple people on Twitter are saying that it's Travis Bazana.
Boom. Okay, so we'll see. It's not confirmed yet. We need to let it go through. We can't do this with every pick. We got to leave some to be desired here. But this is big, right? Because we talked about the board's going to fall differently. So instant reactions, Kareem, what does this mean for, I mean, obviously Cardinals will pick for 6 more picks, but you're pretty happy about this. Explain why.
Yeah, so, I mean, everyone was predicting Wetherholt to go 1, but that didn't happen. And just based on how the draft, just the top of the draft, I do think there's a chance Wetherholt slips to 7 now with him being available. And yeah, I'm just really happy to see that. Bazana is the #1 player in the class, in my opinion. The Guardians got the best player in the class. This is a guy that's got so much contact inside and outside the strike zone. The power potential is there. He barrels the ball a ton, gets it to his pull side. And this is just a baseball rat. This is a guy that's constantly working, trying to improve. And yeah, the Guardians got a hell of a player with the first pick. And yeah, I think the ramifications of this could be really good if you're a Cardinals fan.
So explain a little bit more about Bazana's game, right? Because we don't he's more of a contact bat first guy, but he does have some of the power baked in as well. What makes him so intriguing to you at #1 overall? Why the Guardians decided here not to go? I mean, and we don't really know what the negotiations were with JJ, right? Like maybe he wasn't wanting to go super underslot here, but what makes you what would make a team like the Guardians so in love with Bazana that they're like, okay, we're just going to spend the pool of money here to get a talent like this?
Yeah, so the thing about Bazana is there aren't a lot of red flags in this game. Like he has the potential to be a hell of a player, but let's just say he doesn't hit his ceiling. He's still going to be a tremendous player. And some of these other guys at the top, Charlie Condon, for example, he's got some swing and miss issues against breaking pitches outside of the strike zone, for example. Jack Caglione, we know he's got that, absurd chase rate. Chase Burns, very high effort delivery. Hagen Smith had Tommy John when he was high school. There just doesn't seem to be a lot of risk in Bazana, or even Wetherholt, a guy that was being considered with the number 1 overall pick, a guy that's had some hamstring injuries. So Bazana, there just aren't a lot of red flags in this game. And it seems like the safe pick. And he has so much potential to be he could potentially be a guy that's got 25 plus home run potential while hitting 300. And like that wouldn't shock me at all. It's not like an 80th percent outcome. Like he's a hell of a player. And yeah, that's why I think he's the best player in the class.
I love that you brought that up too, the combination of that kind of ceiling, because it's like, obviously if he hits that, no surprise a guy like that goes number 1 overall. But then you also, especially for a team like the Guardians, that you're not going to be able to go out and make a huge free agent acquisition, right? Like you really got to draft and develop your stars if you're going to have them. To have a guy that also has the floor there too, where there's risk with every prospect, right? There's no really such thing as a safe draft pick. We all think we know what they're going to be, and then you look back at mock drafts later, and it's like, well, everyone thought Mark Capello was going to be really good, and it's like, well, he wasn't at all, right? Like that stuff happens. But to have a guy that you can pretty confidently say at least has a floor of a consistent player that's going to be an impact player at the very least in the major league level matters. And it's official. He just went number 1 overall. So big news to the Cardinals right here. There was no shot. I don't know how much we talked about this, but there is a shot that Wetherholt falls to 7. There was no shot that Bazana was going to fall that far, or Bazana. Anyways, and he's Italian, which that's kind of cool, right? So, or no, he's Australian.
Yeah. He's an Aussie. Yeah.
He's an Aussie. So that's fun. So you, if you're watching on the MLB stream right now, they've got some cool highlights going on as well. So anyways, big pick right there. Good for the Guardians. It was maybe something interesting to talk about. Yeah, good for the Cardinals is, I don't know how I feel about the MLB lottery. I'm going to be honest. I thought it was a cool idea at first, and it's probably just because it hurt the Cardinals that I'm mad. But also, the freaking Reds are up at number 2 now too.
They had a winning record last year.
I get the point of not wanting to incentivize losing and stuff, but it feels really weird to me that the Guardians and Reds get to pick 1-2 this year, and I don't know. Is anyone pro draft lottery here? Because I'm kind of out.
No.
I'm pro.
Oh, okay, go for it. Explain.
I just think, like you said, teams can't tank really with the draft lottery. For example, like a team like the A's, they can't pick next year in the top 10. Chicago White Sox, same thing. So I don't know. In that sense, I like it. Obviously, the Cardinals kind of got burned, not picking. I think they were positioned to pick 5th.
Yeah, and they fell to 7.
Yeah, but I mean, who knows? Like in a couple of years, the Cardinals might be on the reverse end of that, and
that's true.
Pick at the top of the class. So yeah, that's how I feel.
Maybe I would have felt better about it if it's like I really do like the rule that a team can't
the penalty is good.
Yeah, I like that you can't just consistently pick in the top 10 over and over again, that there's a penalty there. So I love that they implemented that at the very least. And then also it's even stricter on teams that do revenue sharing. So like the Nationals, the Yankees, the Mets, because the Nationals fell out of the top 10 this year, which is, I think it's the first time that's happened so far as a team because of one of those penalties. And so they were supposed to be, I think, the 6th best odds right behind the Cardinals. And I think they're picking 10 or 11 now because of that. And it wasn't even because of the lottery, it's just because of the rules there. So I do like that they implemented stuff like that. And again, you're probably right, Kareem. You're probably right. If they were supposed to pick like 13 and they picked number 1, I would not be complaining.
Oh, I'd be really excited.
Gosh, I think it's just like, if they end up getting Wetherholt or Burns or Smith, I'll feel better. But if they don't get one of them, I'm going to blame the lottery. So go for it, Sandy.
Yeah. I hate it. I think it's dumb because I think we're overvaluing the draft. Like the lottery makes a lot of sense in the NBA where it can just be stupid and overpowered because if you sell guys off, you get the 1st overall pick. And the 1st overall pick in the NBA immediately produces. And that's fine. whatever. Occasionally, baseball works like that. Like Paul Skeens, first overall pick. Josh, you and I were on while he was throwing his 7 no-hit innings the other day, talking about, is Paul Skeens the next like legit generational ace? He really might be. Like Paul Skeens might be that good. And the lottery there, kind of mixing up who gets that and making it so you can't just draft right away. What just happened?
Whoa, Keith Law just tweeted out a small surprise at number 2. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, dang it. Number 2
Is Wetherholt
pick.
going?
No, not Wetherholt, but we'll see. I was the one who started saying we shouldn't tease this stuff, and then I'm the one who keeps bringing it up. But
Is it Chase Burns?
yeah, looks like Chase Burns is
Yeah,
going
I've known
number
about
2.
this for like 3 minutes, and I've been making the graphic, and I just didn't say anything because you guys were mad at me last time.
I'm so mad that they get Chase Burns. I'm so mad. I can't wait to have to face. It's not. They haven't.
This is why
The
the
pick
draft lottery is.
Hey, okay. Well, something that could be really interesting here is that Colorado was a team that you really thought potentially could go Burns or Smith here, but Condon being there at 3, I feel like they wouldn't pass on that. So we'll have to see what happens with that there. But if they would have went Burns, then it doesn't really affect the draft that much. But we'll see what happens here. Oh man,
Condon, they pass on Condon. Does Oakland go over slot for Condon?
I feel like he wouldn't fall past 4. That'd be wild.
He shouldn't.
I think Oakland goes under slot. I don't think they'd pick. Condon.
Yeah, like Kurtz. I feel like Kurtz and Oakland have been a match made in heaven for a little while here.
Yeah,
either him or Montgomery, I would say.
So Kareem, tell us a little bit more about Chase Burns here, and then we're going to invite a friend onto the podcast as well that has had a first row seat of Chase Burns for a while here. So yeah, Kareem, tell us more about Chase Burns and why so many Cardinals fans have been excited about him, and just baseball in general has been excited about his arm.
Yeah, so Burns has the nastiest stuff in the entire class. It's a fastball that sits 98 miles an hour with plus ride. He gets over 20 inches of induced vertical break, albeit from a high slot. It's a pitch that had like a 35% swing and miss rate this year, and yeah, it's like a 70 grade pitch, I would say. The arm slot does make the pitch like a little lefties can put the barrel on it a little bit, I would say, but it's nasty, 98 miles an hour with that kind of ride. And then his best pitch, in my opinion, is his 88 mile an hour slider. It's a pitch that he gets crazy depth and horizontal on, and had like a 65% whiff rate. And besides the 2-pitch mix, he also has a curveball and changeup. So it's not just. I think the one thing that separates Burns over Smith is like the pitch mix. Hagen Smith's mostly like a fastball slider guy. He'll sprinkle in a splitter, but I think there's more potential with Burns's arsenal and the curveball and changeup that he throws. And that's really why I'm just a little bit higher on Burns. But yeah, he's got nasty stuff, and the Reds just got a stud.
Well, now that the Reds got him, I think he's got extreme reliever risk, and he's going to flame out, and he's not going to be any good at all. And I've thought that the whole process, have just really been holding off my thoughts on it. And so,
the Ellie De La Cruz of pitchers.
that would be a really good player. So please no, please do not be the Ellie. We gotta calm down the Ellie hate, because he's actually good. So
what's making him better? We need to shut up about it, and then he'll be worse.
That's true. If you aren't someone who typically tunes into the podcast, Andrew has a bad habit of pretty much anything he says, what happens, the exact opposite happens. So Shota ends up being amazing. There's been a couple other examples.
The Cardinals, I think Caglianone's going to go in the top 6.
A's are on, or the Rockies are on the board here.
Imagine Cag with the Rockies?
I think they go Caglianone here.
I've seen that before, so I'd be curious if they do. I think lately I've been seeing a lot of Burns, Smith, but I wonder with Condon if maybe something goes with that there. So
are we feeling Condon to the White Sox now?
Potentially.
I mean, what if the White Sox?
Oh, here we go. Well, hey, before we get to that pick, we've got a special friend on who we want to bring on, who I think is going to give us a little bit more perspective on Chase Burns, and then some other Wake Forest prospects as well. So, Andrew, I don't know if you want to throw the 5-man view up. Ben Remis, thanks for joining us, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You guys are killing it. I don't really have much to add on Burns, honestly. This has been awesome to watch and follow along. Thanks for having me.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background and then what you thought of Burns watching him, and then you can just jump in with some other Wake Forest guys as well. Because I mean, there is another guy at number 7 potentially the Cardinals could go with, and then there's some other interesting names in the draft as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Chase Burns. So he transferred this year to Wake, so I haven't gotten to see him for more than just this season. But I think the first word is he's just pretty electric. And now he's the second Wake Forest ace that the Reds have drafted back-to-back years. They must like what they've gotten from Rhett Lauder, who just pitched at the Futures game a couple days ago. But he's just, as you were saying earlier, he's got everything. Fastball. He competes really hard, which I know you can't really value. Like, there's not like a line stat you're looking for. But every time he took the mound, you could just kind of feel it. And the crowd, fans, at the team, they play hard for him. He's going to be really tough to root against him now that he's at a rival.
Yeah. So Ben, for listeners who don't know you, tell us a little bit about your background and your like kind of your knowledge around Wake Forest as well, so that people kind of know where you're coming at with it.
Yeah, of course. I went to Wake Forest. I graduated in 2022. So big Wake Forest fan. Was part of a Wake Forest sports coverage on Sports Illustrated a couple years ago. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist anymore, but we don't have to get into that. But so, and I've written with you guys over at Redbird Rants a little bit. So that's my baseball background. But this is kind of a cool intersection of my two favorite teams here today. So pretty exciting.
Yeah. So obviously Nick Kurtz is still on the board here, and I don't think we're going to see him go for the next few picks. But while we've got you on, Ben, tell us a little bit about Nick and kind of like, especially for people who are a little bit hesitant because he's a first base only type guy. Like, why should teams be interested in a bat like that?
Yeah. So I think actually I found this stat today because I was trying to, I knew you were going to ask me this. Nick Kurtz led the NCAA in walks this year. He was hurt to start the season, led the Division I in walks. You guys know the other 5 guys who've had 70 walks in a season since 2017? Because it's a pretty good list. It's the guy who went number 1 a couple minutes ago, Bazana, however you say it. Dylan Cruz and Nolan Shanuel last year.
Okay.
Someone 2019, Drew Mendoza, didn't quite make it, was a late round pick. And a catcher by the name of Adley Rutschman.
Wow.
So Kurtz, he's a first baseman. I don't know if he's going to win a Gold Glove. He won't hurt you there. But really, like, the power patience combo that he has, it's legit. And I think, and it's another guy who's captain. People really like this guy. I believe in the bat and the swing and the eye most of all.
Yeah, I love that. That's super interesting to know as well. I'll be interested to see, like, depending on the board falls, if that's someone that the Cardinals would want to pick here. I think people are overestimating, like, again, the Cardinals and teams don't really draft for need in the top 10, and you've got Alec Burleson now, so I don't think there's like the National League people are like, oh, they need a replacement for Paul Goldschmidt. But at the same time, if you got a bat like that, you do it. Again, if you're listening now or watching, Charlie Condon went number 3, so we'll get into that a little bit as well. But Ben, it looks like you've got some big fans in the chat here as well, so that's been fun. But is there any other Wake Forest guys that you're keeping your eye out for, whether it's in the rest of the first round or in the later rounds of the draft?
Yeah, I think there's 3 guys really that I would people should know about. Seaver King, it's kind of a, I guess, toolsy is the word scouts like to use. I don't think the Cardinals are going to get him. They're kind of in between his range, but good athletic guy, plays shortstop, center field, kind of the opposite of Kurtz. He likes to swing at everything, but he makes contact. Definitely versatile player, could make it to the big leagues. The guy I want to talk about the most is Josh Hartle. It's not often that the preseason number 1 pitcher on pretty much everyone's boards drops outside the top 100.
Hold up. What's the break?
Chose Kurtz.
See?
Talk about him.
They did? Okay, Nick Kurtz just went 4.
All right, well, there we go. See, good day for the record's 3 players from the same school. So,
okay,
we're getting there. Do you want me to keep going on Hartle, or do you want to?
Yeah, go for it. Kurtz? Yeah, we'll get to it.
I mean, it's Hartle's like, I think the thing is, do you believe in 2023 Josh Hartle? Because if so, it's a controllable lefty who just knows how to pitch, hits all his spots, 140-something strikeouts. If that's your guy, then I don't know how you don't look at him at the end of the first, or I guess the Cardinals don't pick until the 3rd round. If you believe in this year, you probably don't ever want to touch him again because he really struggled and just, maybe spent too much time in the Wake Forest pitching lab. I'm not sure. But Josh Hartle's name, and the other guy is Michael Massey, another pitcher. he had back surgery right at the end of the year and said the quote was he's never felt better. So, you know, he has a reliever stat line in college, but definitely the ability to be something more than that. So.
Yeah. Ben, this has seriously been super helpful so far. So really appreciate it. Before we let you go, and we need to get you on the podcast again at some point, just to talk Cardinals as well, because it's been fun. But tell us a little bit about what's your excitement level for Kurtz to go all the way up to number 4 and go to a team like Oakland?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, I don't know if he'll build what city he'll end up playing in, but he's going to be great. Yeah. I don't want to go there, but it's really happy for the guy. I mean, he did have like Wake Forest baseball last season. If it wasn't for Paul Skeens, probably would have won a national championship or at least made it to the last game. And this year was a little rough. Kurtz had an injury to start the year. The fact that teams are still believing in him and probably that patience that I talked about, it's really cool. 2 guys in the top 5 is unheard of. Wake Forest is the smallest power conference school in the country, 5,000 students. So it's a really cool day.
Yeah. Well, one thing we do know is that at least within the next 5 to 10 years, Nick Kurtz will be sent for a really underwhelming trade package to the Atlanta Braves and be signed to a long-term extension. So we already know most of his career is how it's going to pan out so far. But Ben, thanks for joining us, man. Seriously, we need to get you on at some point to just talk Cardinal baseball as well. But thanks for giving us your insight on Kurtz, Burns, and these other Wake Forest guys keep your eyes out for.
Of course. And you guys are killing it. You can check me out. I don't know. You post all my links and everything.
And you've got a podcast as well, right?
I got a newsletter. Yeah, the Remix. It's in my Twitter bio. Just daily sports stuff like this. Having fun with it and keep killing it, guys. And we'll see who the Cardinals get at 7. I don't know what it's going to be, but I hope it's good.
Yeah. Well, we'll make sure to tag you on some stuff as well. So if you're interested in following more of Ben's stuff, go on Twitter as well. But Ben, thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. Let's jump in a little bit more with some of the a little bit talking about some of the picks that just happened. But before we do that, the board is falling really weird right now, right? So Kareem, talk a little bit about what this might mean for the Cardinals at 7, because people did join to talk about the Cardinals. Like, what does this potentially mean? 2 picks before the Cardinals here. Is Wetherholt going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, the board's falling the way you'd want if you're a Cardinals fan right now. Nick Kurtz just went to the Oakland Athletics. I thought this pick was going to happen, not going to lie. Either him or Braden Montgomery. I knew they were going underslot. And yeah, Kurtz is a fantastic hitter, first base profile, but this is a guy with great raw power, and he gets to it in games. The contact rates are solid. The swing decisions are elite. It's just a very good college bat. And the A's got a stud, but I mean, if you're the Cardinals, you're excited.
Yeah, this is fun. Hopefully, I haven't seen the next pick leak yet, so we're gonna see what happens. Okay, yeah, because the A's one just officially went through, so this is interesting. Okay, so best players available right now. Honestly, the thing that I'm most excited about right now, based on how the board has fallen, is that Andrew's excited. I don't know what that means. Is that you have at least one of Smith, Montgomery, or Wetherholt on the board at 7 now, guaranteed, and potentially Caglione as well. Oh no, did Wetherholt just go? Oh wait, no. Oh
Cags
no,
to Chicago. Give me Cags to Chicago.
Oh my gosh, this might be happening.
3 straight. Come on. 3 straight years. Let's make it happen.
Oh no way! Because I don't.
Can we talk about the fact that Kareem has guessed the Cardinals pick multiple years in a row though, and they've drafted outside the top 15, and that's insane.
This is wild, and I don't think I've seen anyone say Wetherholt to the Royals. Like I've seen a lot of prep stuff, arms. Okay, the thing I am a little bit nervous about here though, because I don't want to get too excited, is that if there's the 2 best arms aren't available right now, so if they don't go prep here, do they go Caglione or do they potentially take a flyer in Wetherholt? I don't know what happens here, but regardless, you either got Wetherholt, Caglione, or Montgomery on the board here at 7, which feels pretty good. Andrew, are you starting to get a little excited about potentially Caglione?
I mean, I saw a Caglione to the White Sox, so I mean,
well, it's taking Smith though.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I saw a Caglione to the White Sox, so that's why I'm happy. I also am a little bit skeptical on taking an arm because I feel like, I don't know, with the state of pitching right now.
Who is Kansas City?
I don't know.
It's weird for them.
I don't know how I feel about taking a starter or a pitcher.
Oh man, Okay, we've almost got 200 people in the stream right now, which is super awesome. We really appreciate it. Again, we talked earlier about our friends over at 314 Sports Collectibles and all the baseball trading cards they do as well. So if you're interested in that as well. Also, if you're looking to go some Cardinal games over the next year, because I mean they are in contention now, things are really fun. We do have an awesome promo code with SeatGeek as well. And there's no better way to buy sports tickets or tickets to concerts and stuff as well than with SeatGeek. So if you haven't used SeatGeek before, if you download it today or in the coming days, you'll get $20 off your first purchase with the code Newt News, which is our former podcast name. Cardinal games, other sporting events, concerts near you. So make sure to download the app and use the code Newt News for $20 off your first purchase. Thanks, SeatGeek, for that deal as well. Let us know if you end up using something like that as well. Also, stay tuned on Twitter because we might have a giveaway going on here soon, which is pretty fun. Again, if you're watching live now, please like the stream. It helps us out a ton. We got 200 people in here right now, so it's super fun. A lot of hype coming on. 200. We just surpassed 200, so this is a lot of hype about what's about to happen here. Again, if you don't follow our podcast already, subscribe because we talk about Cardinals content all the time, twice a week, usually Sundays and Wednesdays. But this is a big day. We'll break down the Cubs series at the end a little bit here, but man, I was coming into the draft. I was really nervous that I was going to feel pretty underwhelmed by what's going to happen at 7 here. And who knows, maybe the Cardinals pull the rug out from under us and still go high school here. But man, Kareem is just like can't contain himself right now, excitement wise. I love it.
I mean, everyone was saying there's no chance Wetherholt's available at 7, but I still thought there was a chance. Now we go to the start of the draft stream. I thought there was like a 70% chance it'd be Wetherholt, just because of the mock drafts and everything. But I mean, Bazana went 1 and the rest is history. The Cardinals are in a spot where Caglione or Wetherholt are going to be available. And that's just unbelievable.
Oh man. And what's crazy as well is it's like, obviously no one wants what happened in 2023 to ever happen again. But this is the silver lining of a season like that, is now the Cardinals do get an opportunity at a talent like this. And if this was a normal season, they're picking 17, 18, whatever here. And there's always intriguing talents there, but it's something interesting. Okay. Something I haven't brought up earlier and hadn't brought up yet. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this come out yet. I'm a little bit, I'm not buying it, but it's at least interesting enough to note here. I need to find it, but apparently the what's the high schooler, the lefty Caminiti. Apparently there's some late buzz about the Cardinals being interested in
No,
him.
not
so
I
would just leave the stream at that point.
So that's just, you never know. There's always curveballs. I would be shocked though. Maybe they were thinking that way if like the board felt really weird, because you got to be prepared for all scenarios.
If Wetherholt's there, they will pick him. I put my money on that.
Yeah, I would be shocked if they didn't. It just feels like a Cardinal pick right there. And then like it's a Cardinal pick, but also with the ceiling that you usually can't get at a spot like they usually pick. So man,
what if the Royals pick Wetherholt?
I will be so mad.
Yeah.
So mad.
I just don't see it. I just don't see
the Royals Cags a lot. I feel like the Royals have got to be so excited that he's still available.
Looks like Cags to KC.
Oh, come on.
Oh, Wetherholt's a Cardinal. Wetherholt's a Cardinal.
I mean, we have to say that Wetherholt is a fundamentally different player than the Cardinals have had the opportunity.
I'm not seeing this anywhere.
Okay, maybe not. I'm seeing people say it, but maybe it's not true though. Maybe people are just saying that should happen.
There's no way.
Man.
This is a completely different type of player than we've been able to pick. Because if you look at the Cardinals' last few picks, it's been like low ceiling college pitchers, McGreevy and Thompson, or high ceiling toolsy high schoolers. They have not had the opportunity to take a guy that's both this safe and this talented and on the position player side.
It's confirmed.
This is huge for the Cardinals.
I'm getting my
Wetherholt. This is crazy.
Oh my gosh.
3 straight years.
So again, if you're watching right now, something that we need to acknowledge is that if you go back to the very beginning of draft season, JJ Wetherholt was supposed to be the number 1 overall pick. He was the guy that everyone had drafted there. Obviously, Bazana was up there as well. Condon was a late riser. Caglione was interesting. But JJ was kind of the consensus number 1 pick guy. The major thing that's helped him to fall down boards a little bit here is the fact that he had some hamstring issues. That is concerning, right? So last summer, he tweaked it a little bit. There were some issues there. And then he hurt it at the very beginning of the college season, missed like 20-something games. But he did come back, and I think he was fine after that. It's a two-way player. So that's something that's really interesting to note with him. But the Cardinals are potentially getting the 1-1 talent, or at least someone that should have been going 1-1 in the draft without injuries here at number 7 here. Come on. Oh man, we gotta wait. We gotta wait to see if it's official because I'm really scared they'll pull the carpet out underneath us here and go really weird. Andrew, at least a two-way player ended up in Missouri, right? Like that's a
Yeah, you're only 4 hours
I don't
away.
like
You
the
can go
Royals,
drive and
though.
watch
The
it.
Royals are annoying.
oh my gosh.
The
Hey,
Royals
again,
have
if you're
fun
watching out, like the stream, subscribe, share it with people you know. It's really helpful and really appreciate it. Again, let us know what you're thinking about. Are the Cardinals picking Wetherholt here? Does anyone think it's going to be anything different? Montgomery's still on the
Wetherholt.
board,
It's
but
Wetherholt.
Kareem won't let any other talk happen here.
If it's
It's
Cam Caminiti,
slander.
Kareem leaves the chat immediately.
Oh man, it is true. So if you're, I know some people are putting in here now, JJ ranks 4 by MLB.com. Usually he's within the top 4, depending on the outlet you look for. But again, the main reason he's fallen down the board a little bit, again, Bazana and Condon are awesome too. So it's not taking any away from them. But one of the main reasons he did get a little bit of a knock here was because of the hamstring stuff. So it's not one of those, like, it's a little bit different when you get a guy who fell down the board, who was supposed to be number 1, where they have a bad season. Like that wasn't Wetherholt. Let me pull up some of his numbers here from last year and this year as well, because he's just a stud. So Wetherholt 2 seasons ago put up a 1,300 OPS in 55 games with a 449 batting average. 449 for West Virginia. Again, it's college, but still. This past year, even in a injury riddled year, put up a 331, 472, 589 slash line. We'll get more into the like scouting grade stuff when it becomes official. Kareem, I know you don't want to entertain it, but if there's for some crazy reason they don't pick Wetherholt here, who, like, is it Montgomery? Is it Rayner then? Is that the two guys you're looking at?
I don't think there's anyone else on the board. The Cardinals are looking at their board right now, and it's just JJ Wetherholt on its own.
I hope so.
And he will be the pick. I think he
has to be.
Right after the Royals made their selection, Randy Flores is on the phone. All right? The pick has been made. It's Wetherholt. Just
Sandy, go ahead. I know you had something.
Yeah, so like I just want to ask you, Kareem. Obviously, JJ Wetherholt is a guy that people are more excited about than some of the guys that have already gone ahead of him. Right? He's ranked as a top 4 consensus prospect. If the Cardinals get him, where does he jump into the top 100 for people that are a little less in touch with this? How does he rank among baseball's best prospects if he's a Cardinal in 5 minutes?
I think he would jump himself into the top 20, top 25. And I think
it's a massive infusion of talent into the system.
Yeah, I think I would have him as the number 1 prospect in the Cardinal system, to be honest.
Okay. How many guys within this top 10 do you think are like top 100 prospects in baseball? I meant to ask you that at the top because it depends on the draft, right? When you have a guy that jumps in, but how many of these guys do you think are that talented?
5, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'd put him as one of the top 5.
Okay. And you think he's in like potentially the 20, which I think by the trade deadline, we'll probably see, if not a little bit before the rankings get updated, we'll see where Wetherholt or someone like that ends up going. But I'm so ready to send the tweet out and be like, they got him. But we'll have to see here. So we do have another guest we want to jump on or bring on here.
They definitely got to look at Kareem.
No, I have no idea.
Yeah, the Royals pick hasn't been announced yet, so I'd be surprised if it's leaked already. But
it's been announced. I'm sad. Okay. I'm depressed. This is pain.
Looks like we've still got Ethan loading in here, so we'll throw him on the stream once he's fully loaded in. But
I see. The thing is, Caglione, I was convinced that we weren't going to get him, and then he fell to 6, and I was like, oh, we might have a chance.
Yeah, we do need to pour one out for Andrew here because I do feel bad. I honestly hoped that he would go so high that it didn't tempt you because I just didn't think it was going to happen. But here we are. Hey, he is a Royal though, so. You can go watch some games if you want. It's a little easier to get there than
Andrew. You can do it.
I would be curious. Kareem, do you think there's any organization, do you think someone like Kansas City will let him experiment with two-way, or do you think most organizations are probably out on that?
No chance. I think he's a first baseman. I would honestly put him in right field, to be honest. He's an exceptional athlete. Obviously has a strong throwing arm.
Apparently it's confirmed.
We got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
3 for 3.
Oh,
yeah, everyone say he wasn't going to be available.
Kareem every year.
Kareem on it every single time. Oh, Robert Murray put it out. Yep.
Let's go.
Wetherholt's the pick. Oh,
how does he do it? How does Kareem get it?
Wow.
Right, every year.
3 for 3.
Oh man, someone just said I'm having hamstring for dinner. What on earth? Okay, so if you're just joining the stream, you've been in for a little bit. JJ Wetherholt is at least reportedly the pick for the Cardinals here at 7. You always want to hold out until that stuff happens, but oh my goodness, this is crazy. Kareem, we're to let Kareem calm down for a second because I'm excited. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with myself. I thought I was gonna be so disappointed with the pick tonight. They got him. Kareem, tell us more about his player profile, right? Like, what are your scouting grades on him? What is the type of player the Cardinals are adding to their system here?
Yeah, so the first thing that stands out with Wetherholt, he's got a 70 hit tool. I think the best hit tool in the class. This is a guy that makes so much contact inside of the strike zone and outside of the strike zone. The plate discipline is unbelievable. He doesn't chase outside of the strike zone. He swings at a decent amount of pitches in the strike zone. The contact quality is exceptional. It's not he didn't barrel the ball as consistently as a guy like Travis Bazzana, but nor did he get it to his pull side enough. But the raw potential with his power is there. That's a 108 90th percentile exit velocity. This is a guy that played shortstop this year, handled his own at shortstop. I do think second base is most likely his eventual spot, just because he's got a fringy arm. But other than that, this is a guy that's just a tool shed in terms of his ability. And yeah, couldn't be happier. At the start of the draft, I really thought Wetherholt was going to go 1. That didn't happen. And he's a Cardinal now. It's crazy.
Oh man. So there are going to be people who are going to see this pick, Kareem, and be super disappointed the Cardinals didn't get an arm. Why should Cardinal fans be excited about adding a bat like JJ Wetherholt to the system versus going out and getting, obviously Burns and Smith weren't available, so that's the first part. But say Smith or Burns were on the board here, and like it just in general, what is the point? What is the excitement level of getting someone like JJ Wetherholt in this class?
I can't even put words to it. This is a guy that should be a consensus top 3 guy on all boards. The only reason he's slipping here is because of a hamstring issue that he's had. And if it wasn't for that, I think he'd be going top 3 in this class. And yeah, I just can't believe it.
Oh man, this is insane. This is absolutely wild. I'm seeing some different messages in here about how they should have gone with a pitcher. Again, I don't really see one on the board right now that makes any sense to take at number 7 after Smith and Burns, especially with a guy like Wetherholt on the board here. And even if Wetherholt wasn't on the board here, like you probably still would go with Caglione or Nick Kurtz or Montgomery or Rayner over the next best arm here. Like I know Trey Yesevich is a pretty decent guy out there. There's some interesting high school arms, but none of them you would want to pick here at number 7. Yep, Derek Gold is also confirming JJ Wetherholt to the Cardinals. The pick is in. The Angels pick has already been like reported too. I guess the draft is happening like 5 picks beyond what we're saying already. Like every team is already like, okay, we're going. But hopefully we'll get Ethan in here soon as well. It looks like there's some little bit connectivity issues, but wow, this is wild. A left-handed bat here from West Virginia. Again, the guy just absolutely rakes. 2 years ago, which is one of the main reasons he was supposed to go 1-1 going into the year, was that he was a 331 force. Or sorry, 2 years ago, he had a 1300 OPS with a 449 batting average, elite bat tool. Again, this last year he had the hamstring injury, but 30-31, 472, 589. Even coming back from that injury, he's a beast. And here he comes. He's walking up to the stage. Oh, he's got like a cowboy hat on. What is this?
Insane amount of aura.
The aura here. I can totally see there's going to be like Cardinals gifts and like Cardinals Reek, and all of them are definitely going to be tweeting out that image. But here's putting the Cardinal jersey on right now. Oh man, JJ Wetherholt. Man, there's some people in the chat who do not like this pick. I'm kind of surprised that people are hating on it this much. But
My God.
man.
I just have to say, I understand why people want a pitcher in the draft, because we've been bitten by the fact that the Cardinals didn't draft well on the pitching side for the last few years, but there's not a pitcher on the board that has anywhere near the upside of JJ. Even if we're just talking about best available, there's nobody else. Also, that is the need right now. The Cardinals system has good pitching. Quinn Matthews, Darlin Saladin, Tim Kentz, these guys are exciting. We need this. in the system. JJ fits what we need. He's the best player available. And if you're talking about a guy who could have potentially been taken first overall, falling to at 7th, that's a good day. That's amazing. There's a reason that Cleveland wasn't at the top of the draft looking at these other guys people are suggesting. There's a reason they weren't looking at Cags. JJ is the pick. This is a massive win for the Cardinals.
Oh, man. I think it's also interesting, too, because, I mean, some people are going to look at this again. If you don't watch the MLB draft that often, you might be like, why on earth would it, like, if he was that good, why didn't he get picked earlier? Again, we brought up the hamstring stuff already, but there's also underslot issues, all that kind of stuff. But Ethan, let's go, man.
About time that my computer reception starts working. Holy moly, missed the pick and everything.
Hey, you still get to react with this, though. So if you don't know Ethan Hanford already, he's over at KMOX, does awesome content as well for his own podcast For the Lou and all this kind of stuff. But just let us know, like, JJ Wetherholt is now the pick. He's got his little bolo tie on. He's wearing the Cardinals gear. How are you feeling about JJ Wetherholt being a St. Louis Cardinal?
Well, I'll start off with I dig the cowboy hat, not because it's my style personally, but more so because you like to be able to rock it. You got to have a little bit of finesse, a little bit of style.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm digging that first and foremost. But you look at the profile of this guy, and I mean, if we're rewind a year back and you see this guy and where he's projected to go, and obviously the hamstring stuff. I don't know if I want to say necessarily concerning. But it seems like this is the kind of guy, right? I mean, he here at 7, it's a no-brainer. I mean, kudos to Kareem because I mean, my whole thing going into today, the last several days has been, you look through all the projections that we've been seeing in the past several months, and the funniest part is that everyone's looks different. I mean, finding a consistent 1 through 10 from any of these people is almost impossible. So being able to, and once again, I don't know if I've seen, outside of Kareem, who's killing the game right now, I don't know if I've really seen anyone that is nailing these like from 1 through 7. So, I mean, kudos to what we've seen so far. Wetherholt, there's a lot to be excited about. I'm not going to lie. There was a part of me that was really hoping that one of those high velo guys would end up falling to us. Yeah. But just because that seems like something that is so opposite of something the Cardinals have had. So I'm not going to lie. It would have been nice for that to fall to us, but there's a lot to be excited about in JJ Wetherholt.
Yeah, honestly, like I'm kind of glad they're off the board at 7 because I think it would have felt like even more torn if there was like Burns and Wetherholt, which no way that was going to happen, or Wetherholt and Smith on the board. It'd been like, you could have had the pitcher, but Wetherholt seems to be like the guy here. Kareem, something I'm curious again. He's got to get into the system. We got to see stuff. So no one should really be talking ETA stuff with a guy like this at all yet. But do you expect Wetherholt to be a little bit more of a potential fast riser, or is he a guy that you might have to be a little bit more patient on the Cardinal fans want? Like 2025, we should not be talking about that. But like 2026, 2027, do you expect him to be a guy that, if things are going well, is already pushing for a debut in St. Louis? Or is this a guy that, even though he's a college bat, a lot of potential, a lot of talent already, might take a little bit to kind of get his feet underneath him?
I think Wetherholt's going to be one of the quickest movers in this draft class. You're talking about a guy that's got an unbelievable hit tool, very good plate discipline. I just think he has a lot of the skills you like to see from a guy that's going to be a big riser. And he has another thing with Wetherholt. He has the track record with wood bats performing at the Cape Cod League. So yeah, I think this is going to be a fast moving prospect. I don't think he's going to, we're seeing Chase Burns. He's played most of his year at single A following his draft selection. I think Wetherholt's going to be much faster in terms of development than a guy like Chase Davis.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Ethan, something I think people are going to be talking a lot about, and Sandy, Andrew, anyone chime in here, is that I think immediately people are like, especially if you're not super familiar with the MLB draft, people are going to see, the Cardinals picked an infielder. What does that mean for Nolan Gorman? Right? Or what does that mean for Brendan Donovan? Like, what are you going to say?
7. Tommy Edman's gone, and I was like,
so long, my friend. This is insight, guys, as to who's getting traded at the deadline.
So, Ethan, what's your response to when you see stuff like that?
Well, my response is look at anyone in the last however many years besides Paul Skeens. Look at the track of how long it takes to be able to get to this level and to be able to legitimately compete at this level. it's a process. It's a long process. It's a several year at least process usually. So there's a lot down the road as to what could happen with those guys up the middle. I mean, if we're talking about 2020, if we really want to get into this, we want to talk about 2026, 2027, assuming that the roster or some of those core younger guys that we have now are still there. I mean, we're starting to talk about the time that Nolan Arenado's like getting towards the end of that contract. We're looking at Nolan Gorman as a guy that came up as a third baseman. Like it is so far down the road, and there's so many different things that can happen. I mean, we've seen guys change positions based off of free agent signings. We've seen the point is that Wetherholt has a ridiculous bat. He has great speed. Whether he ends up at short, at second, or for God's sake in right field, like right now, doesn't really matter. It's more so the talent that the Cardinals have acquired in an offensive piece, I think, is what people need to be looking at.
Yeah. Sandy, what's your kind of thoughts right now on the Cardinals adding another exciting left-handed bat to their system here? Obviously, most of them are at the big league level. We do have Chase Davis coming up as well. Wimbencho. Like, there are some intriguing bats that are left-handed in the system right now. But what's kind of your thoughts on adding a guy like Wetherholt here to what they already have a collection-wise?
This is awesome. This is exactly what the Cardinals needed to do. This is exactly what the system needed. I couldn't be more excited about what we've got going on right now. I've thought for a little while that the Cardinals system is a little bit underrated. I'm not going to pretend they're a top 10 system, but these people that are consistently ranking them around 23 to 25 kind of feels like I've seen that a lot. I don't think that's fair, but I think this is the type of thing that the Cardinal system needs to jump up the rankings. JJ is a huge infusion of talent. And like I said, this is a place of need within the system. It would have been nice to grab an ace. Like, you always want to grab a position with real frontline starter type of upside. But that wasn't available. JJ was, and it's what we need. We need those left-handed bats. It's going to be really cool to see him at the major league level, hopefully really soon. Kareem's talking about how he could be a really fast riser. Like, there's nothing but positivity to have about this. This is a huge day for the Cardinals.
How does this affect Jose Fermin's legacy, though?
He's gone. And I want to respond to the people saying Gorman's gone. I think Ethan put that right. Like, we have no idea what the Cardinals roster looks like 3 years from now. The Cardinals have had a lot of turnover recently. That could continue. Now, like, they just have more depth. If the Cardinals want to go out and get a pitcher, that's something that now all of a sudden, if JJ comes in and hits well next year, maybe you can move Thomas Sajazi more easily. You're not worried about moving these infielders. At the same time, look at the Reds. The Reds like continue to go after these guys on the left side of the infield, and then they move them all around, and it's been successful. Yeah. People are laughing at the fact that they had Steer, Ellie, Noelvi Marte, too many guys over there that seem to be clumped up, but it hasn't hurt them. It's been something that's a benefit, right? You want to grab athletic guys who you feel like can play anywhere. And if JJ has to play at third or second, or maybe even see what he looks like in a corner outfield spot at some point, although I don't think that's maximizing his glove and his arm, that's something that they can do because he's athletic and he has the ability to do that. You're not locking yourself in with somebody who's a first base only type.
Yeah, that's the key there. I think you like too, is when you get a shortstop type, it's like with Nick Kurtz, if his bat's not playing, what other values he providing you, right? And you don't have the flexibility to move a guy like that around. JJ gives you the flexibility that down the line, does Gorman need to move? Does he need to move? Does Wynn Wynn's not moving off shortstop? That was dumb. But Donovan, you can move some of these guys around. And then think back to the 2020 draft, right? Like the Cardinals pick third baseman Jordan Walker. And Matt Carpenter was the third baseman of the St. Louis Cardinals right then. And then a year later, they have Nolan Arenado. And these things change. So to project today, that the Cardinals are going to have roster issues because of this pick it's not a accurate view of how player development usually goes with this and how team building goes. Again, we hope that Wetherholt's a fast riser and a guy that's going to be up soon, but most guys don't make it up within 365 days, even 2 years, right? A lot of these guys take some time to bake in the oven a little bit here too. But I do think it's really interesting that the Cardinals for a long time really lacked left-handed bats in their lineup. And Ethan, maybe this is something you can speak to a little bit. And now you just go up and down the system here, Gorman, Donovan, Nootbaar, Wetherholt, Burleson, they have really invested in the left side of the plate here from a hitting perspective. What does this tell you maybe about potentially some of their shifts draft strategy wise and kind of talent they've been targeting? And what does this kind of give you like hope wise about the future of the Cardinals offense? Because they do need to find answers beyond Goldschmidt and Arenado going forward.
Yeah, I think that, it's really interesting. And Randy Flores gave a little bit of insight both on the TV and the radio broadcast this morning. And I'm looking forward to hearing some of his thoughts on the Zoom call coming up here in a little bit, just about what the process is in going for, what you're looking for and how much are you looking at what you're drafting right now compares to what you have on a major league roster. And I really don't think it's much. I really don't, because like we've talked about, so much can change. I'll say this, out of this group of 5, I'm probably the one that knows and has the least amount of knowledge and information about like the guys that are being brought in, the details behind the scouting that Randy Flores is doing. But what I can tell you is that they're not actively saying, okay, we can't pick this guy because there would be a situation with this guy on the major league roster. And what we've been talking about these last 2 minutes is the amount of separation that we see between the drafting and the amount of baking in the oven, like you said, that has to go along before things are actually happening at the major league level. What I can tell you is right now, the left-handed bats right now for the Cardinals, it's funny, even how we shift to what was it 2-3 years ago, and we were begging for the Cardinals to acquire one at the deadline, and now you look and it's almost like it's too much, because now when you got Drew Smiley coming up out of the bullpen, you got no answer. So it has been a really impressive transition that is become a really big strength for the Cardinals. Obviously, going into the deadline whole other conversation, there's been people out there saying the hope is to acquire a right-handed bat. But we'll have to wait and see how they go about that direction. Kind of like I said, kind of a little bit of a separate thing. But regardless, seeing what Burleson, Donovan, some of these guys have been able to do, and their rise to the majors has been really impressive. And it's also shown a little bit of, like we talked about, I think the last episode I was on, like the slow crescendo of the Nolan Arenados, the Paul Goldschmidts, and these youngsters starting to make their way up and have more of an active impact on this roster.
Yeah, and then there's also things too that we don't think a lot about too, but it's like Donovan, Nootbaar, and Gorman all hit arbitration this next year. Like, we think these guys are young and controllable, but in a flash, like blink of an eye, they're in arbitration, and blink of an eye, they're hitting free agency. So you kind of have to revamp these. I'm not trying to act like any of those guys are going to be gone anytime soon, but you have to consistently think about who's next, even with some of these younger guys.
Right.
And then, to be fair, people are putting in there like, okay, you could trade X, Y, and Z. And it's like, there could be a day where the Cardinals, like Wetherholt works out. He's hitting like one of the best hitters in the minor leagues. It's like, okay, we need to fit him into this lineup. And we have all these left-handed bats. That's a great place to be in. Instead of picking for need and going, oh, well, we need an arm, and so you're going to go and pick this guy who's less valuable. Go pick the best player available and figure it out later, whether it's fit him in another position, whether it is use Wetherholt as trade bait later, whether it is use Gorman or whoever it is. Like, it just increases what the Cardinals options are later as well. So Kareem, I'm interested to hear what you think of this. Obviously, we have not seen Wetherholt play a single at bat of minor league baseball. So like, it's fair to calm down a little bit, but like, in terms of prospect pedigree, where would you rank someone like Wetherholt from any of the Cardinals prospects they've had in recent memory? And then with that as well, if you had to pick today, like if you were to ranking these left-handed bats and who you want long-term, like what are the major league bats on the roster right now are you picking before you're like, I want the potential of Wetherholt?
Yeah, so I don't know if Wetherholt's like the caliber of like a Jordan Walker type of prospect, at least off jump right now, straight out of the draft. But he's got to be up there. I think he places number one in the organization right now ahead of Tink Hens. And for your second question, you asked how he compares with some of the guys that they have currently on the big league roster.
Yeah, like if you're thinking, and specifically the left-handed bats, yeah, Donovan, Gorman, Burleson, Nootbaar, like how many of those guys you're like, I'm taking the certainty I have with them right now before you're like, hey, I want to bank on the potential that Wetherholt has. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue against guys that have already had major league success.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't like a Burleson, for example, he's really burst on the scene this year. Donovan has been productive his entire career. Nolan Gorman, we know what he is when he gets hot. I don't know if I want to put JJ Wetherholt in that consideration just yet, because we haven't even seen him in the minor leagues. But he's a very talented guy and my personal top prospect in the system right now.
Yeah. And also, like, to your point about Jordan Walker earlier, Jordan Walker didn't start out as a top 5 prospect in all of baseball, right? Like, he got drafted. He was that high ceiling. We'll see what happens. And then a couple years later, he bursts on this. He has a great year, high A or low A. And then obviously the double A year really propelled him up prospect boards as well. So there's probably an argument. I mean, we'll see what prospect rankings come out, but JJ Wetherholt's probably the highest ranked prospect they've had off the jump of drafting a guy. I don't even know since I'm trying to think of a guy that was really like a top 50, top 75 prospect upon being drafted that the Cardinals have gotten. Like, Walker wasn't like that, even though he was really exciting. Obviously, Taveras was a signee out of the Dominican, so like he took a while to get it. Like, there just isn't someone like that they've had. So it's really exciting to add something like that this early on as well. So obviously we can keep breaking down this pick, and there's other picks going on too as well. The Seaver King, who Ben talked about earlier, just went 10 to the Nationals. Ethan, before we let you go, man, though, like, the Cardinals split with the Cubs. They're 50-46 now, right? After finishing the first half. Last time we talked to you, I can't remember the state of the team, but it definitely wasn't this good. I think go for it.
It most definitely wasn't. Much better now. I want to say it had to have been in the first few weeks of the season, because things were still it was before the epic collapse, but it was so we hadn't hit the panic button entirely. It was still, this is a tough schedule, a tough April, and we're still in the range of what we were hoping for. But yeah, I mean, this team has turned it around in a lot of ways. Not to say that there aren't still some areas that need to be improved, but in large part, the starting pitching has gotten the job done. The bullpen has been phenomenal since day one. But the biggest difference has been that people are pulling the weight that everyone expected Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt to pull. Donovan has really turned it around. Alec Burleson's been phenomenal. Contreras coming back's been big time. I mean, I don't know if it's a coincidence that things started to turn around when Contreras went down. And I say that because I think that that was a serious, like, it has to happen at some point, guys. It has to happen. And so I don't know I don't think I would say that's much of a coincidence. I'd say the way that Pedro Pajes came up and started to work with the rotation, and Ivan Herrera was working well as well. I think both of those guys did a great job in the time that Contreras was out. But I mean, it's funny because you could ask any player on the team, what has been like the takeaways from this first half, because you could break it down into so many little pieces as to how we felt about the team. So it's not like there's a single, oh, well, this is what the team was, because it was never that at any point. So I mean, 50-46, I think if you're saying on opening day, if you're saying the Cardinals are 4 games over 500 at that point, at the All-Star break, I think a decent amount of fans are probably saying that's right in the area where they expected. But I can tell you this, I don't think a lot of fans were expecting to be 4 games over the 500 at Mother's Day. So what they've done from that point on has been very impressive. And I'll say this before I let you guys go. You look at this National League. It's not very strong right now. I mean, like, some of these teams that dropped absolute bank in the offseason are a little bit banged up. The Dodgers just having Yamamoto go on the 60-day. I mean, who are they even throwing right now? I mean, their rotation is not what anyone expected it to be. The Braves are down right now. I mean, the Phillies are the Phillies, but if the Cardinals are willing to be maybe a level above the expectation that people have for them at the trade deadline, things could get a little bit interesting, and perhaps we could be talking about a Cardinals team that is a legitimate contender to get into the pennant race. So we'll just have to wait and see, but it's going to be a fun remainder of July.
For sure. Well, Ethan, thanks for joining us for the pick, and we'll have to talk with you again soon, especially as things are ramping up for the stretch run. Again, it's at least a fun time to be watching Cardinal baseball, especially compared to Mother's Day. Oh goodness, that we need like a better name for it, like Bloody Sunday or Bloody Saturday or something. Like it felt like the world was crashing down that day.
It's terrible.
So again, really thankful that you jumped on. We'll talk again soon, but again, you can Ethan plug your stuff on here so people know where to find you.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at ECHANN7, ECHAN7. And then I host a podcast, The Loose Sports Talk. Plenty of great guests on, and we're on social media at Loose Sports Talk _ Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you find your podcast. So be sure to go and check that out. And appreciate hopping on with you guys, and we'll have to do it again some point.
Yeah. See you, Ethan. Appreciate it, man.
See you guys.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm still like Wetherholt mania here.
We got him.
We got him.
We got him, boys. Oh my goodness.
Oh man. I do think if you're in the chat now too, I mean, I know some people have left a little bit already, but if you're interested in staying on a little bit longer, I know I can stay a little bit too, and I don't know about you guys, but it'd be interesting to see what the Cubs do at 14. I kind of want to react to that a little bit, but yeah, I mean, Sandy, it's happened. Like what's your thought process right now, man?
I mean, it's just good. I feel like obviously you got to give credit to the Cardinals front office for making the pick, but also, as Kareem said, the draft board had to just be JJ Wetherholt, JJ Wetherholt, JJ Wetherholt. It's pretty easy, right? Like, I don't know. It's gonna be frustrating though if JJ's really good, Cardinals fans are like, well, he slipped down the draft and it was a slam dunk, easy alley-oop pass for the Cardinals. Oh, it would have been ridiculous if they hadn't taken him. And if JJ sucks, we're gonna get, oh, what a ridiculous pick. I was so right. They should have taken this guy who went 16th overall and nobody really had at the top of their board.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how people react to this pick down the line. But like right now, I'm going to approach it the way I approached the Ozuna deal when it happened. I'm not saying this is going to turn out that way, but when the Ozuna deal happened, I said, it's a lot of talent to part with, but the Cardinals needed to do this. It was a good move in the moment. At least that's how I felt about it. And that's how I feel about this. This is a great decision in the moment. And I will defend the thought processes that went into it down the line, no matter how it ends up. Yeah. Also, I'm seeing Cubs Brecht in the chat. Please take him. He has terrible control issues. I would love that. Please do it.
Man, he looks like their bullpen right now. That's for sure.
Seriously.
So if you're in the chat right now, still, I know we talked about doing Q&A. We've gotten a little bit through it, but if you have a question or things you want us to address, throw a question in the message and then say what you're saying, just because there's a lot of chats coming through. So it makes it a little bit easier for us to kind of like thumb through and figure out if there's something you're wanting to talk through it all. Yeah, I mean, the nice thing you brought the Ozuna comparison, like at least this one, you're not giving up 2 Cy Youngs. You did like just trade up to go get like the cost of a terrible season is you get the opportunity, a lottery ticket here in JJ Wetherholt. And it's not a lottery ticket prospect. I'm saying like you struck the lottery, you get to go up here and get a guy that could be an insane talent. And also something we didn't really talk about, like we referenced all these left-handed bats the Cardinals have at the big league level right now. And I know some people think that like Newbar and Donovan are overrated and whatever, but I mean, the Cardinals have been consistently pumping out these young left-handed bats. So to think about adding a talent like JJ to the system and being like, well, I mean, the pitching's one thing. And I mean, recently it's looking good, but like obviously look over the last 3, 4, 5 years, the guys haven't been coming up like you'd want to see. But if there's something I kind of like, if I had to give the Cardinals a bread and butter right now and the thing I trust, it's the bats that they've been doing a good job with, or at least getting them to the big league level. So that's at least exciting to think like, okay, now you've got JJ here. And he instantly, like, if you take Burns or Hagen Smith here, Kareem, I don't know where you would have had them ranked versus Tink Hence. Like, are both of those arms above Tink Hence to you? Or do you think one of those, like, where would you have ranked Chase Burns and Hagen Smith if they had popped into the system?
I think that would have been a lot closer, to be honest, for me. Wetherholt, I had Wetherholt ranked ahead of both Burns and Smith heading into the draft. And yeah, it's I still can't believe it, man. I'm glad the Cardinals didn't go with Cam and Eddie.
Yeah, that would have been a crazy pick.
Oh man, I saw that. I forgot to mention it to you guys, and I saw it like pick 3, and I was like, I'll bring this up later because it could play into things. But then when Wetherholt was there, I was like, there's no way, right? Like,
who's the last big prep arm to go super early? Is it Jackson Jobe?
It might be. I'm trying to think.
That was 5 years ago, and that guy, I mean, Jackson Jobe looks like he's going to be a good pitcher from what I've seen, but like that was 5 years ago. That was the same draft as Adley and Bobby Witt. That's kind of the difference between taking prep guys and taking college guys. Or I guess Bobby Witt was a prep guy too. I shouldn't say that he wasn't. But like you look at Adley, reaches the big leagues very quickly. Not everyone's going to be like him, of course. Like JJ Wetherholt, I'm not just going to pretend he's going to be the best at his position immediately, right?
Yeah.
But he's probably going to be a quick riser, and he's probably going to get through relatively quickly, especially when we compare it to like a Nolan Gorman, who rose quickly for a prep guy, but he was in the system for a while. You know, like you think about that. This is exciting. This is a guy that could contribute in just a few years. Jackson Jobe, again, great prospect, still a minor league player. And like the jury's still out on how good he's going to be at the MLB level. High school prep arms are very worrisome to me. You have no idea what you're getting a lot of the time. And there's so little mileage on those arms too. You got to be worried about injuries, the concerns. It seems to me like guys either have strong arms or they don't. You know, like a guy like I don't know, Justin Verlander's had a few injuries, but like he's been able to just punish his arm throughout his career, and he's been fine. But then a guy like Shane McClanahan can't stay healthy for more than a couple months. You know, you have no idea what kind of arm that guy has, strength-wise, how his UCL is going to hold up. So I prefer to stay away from prep pitchers. I really don't like when teams go that direction, and I was worried the Cardinals would. It's really good to see them not do that.
Yeah. 7's a little bit more realistic for a prep arm. I'm trying to think of the last time top 5, though, outside of like
Jobe was number 3.
Jobe or whatever.
That's the last thing I can remember.
Yeah.
Frank Mazzucato, was he a prep arm?
Frank Mazzucato?
Yeah, Kansas City got him.
Yeah, he was a prep arm.
Okay.
But he's like in single A right now.
Yeah.
I think he's in high A. He recently pitched against Peoria.
Yeah, you're right. He's in high A. But still, like, that's a guy that was taken a few years ago, and you're still not seeing him in the upper levels.
Yeah. And I mean, it's all risk reward, right? Like with one of those prep arms, it's like the reason why it would just would have been crazy to go him there pretty much with anyone on the board. But like with a guy like Wetherholt, it's like you like the floor more. The ceiling also doesn't really like whatever your ceiling for this prep arm is. It's probably about what Wetherholt is as a player, if not lower than his. So it's like that's the clear guy. But once you start getting a little bit lower, and some of the college guys just aren't as like exciting. One pick I think is really interesting that I just think makes like it's so funny that he fell, because I feel like every year the Red Sox pick a guy where I'm like, how did they get that? And Braden Montgomery at 12, I feel like is a really, really solid pick for them, because we were talking again, he could have gone number 4 in this draft potentially. We're talking about him at number 7 for the Cardinals as a quality pick there, falling to number 12 for Boston here. That feels like a really good pick to me for them. And they've got Teal, they've got Marcelo Mayer, they've got obviously Duran, but then they also have blanking on their other third top guy that everyone loves, Casas. But there's a prospect. There's a big 3 of Teal, Meyer. Who's the third guy?
Roman Anthony.
Yeah, Roman Anthony. Yeah. So that's a really solid pick for the Red Sox.
Love Montgomery. I think it's a huge fit with the Red Sox.
And I'm just glad he's not going to Cubs.
Rayner.
What was that?
Didn't the Tigers just draft Rayner? Did I see that?
I've been totally missing this. I ever since the Cardinals picked, I've been like,
we've been really excited.
I've like had no care in the world who's going after
him to be a Cub. I've seen a lot of stuff saying that he has potentially the highest ceiling of anybody in the draft, and I could not have dealt with that. It's good to see him go to Detroit.
Oh yeah, Rayner.
Yeah, he may turn out to be like, I saw people saying if we redraft this in 10 years, we might be saying he should have been the consensus number 1 overall pick. The way it seems like prep guys sometimes just pop off. So I'm just glad he's not a Cub. I hope the Cubs go with Brody Brecht. Please pick Brody Brecht. I don't think it's likely, but it would be awesome if they did.
Oh man! Oh, it looks like James Tibbs to the Giants. Tell us more about him, Kareem, because he seemed like a really late riser in this, and he was kind of a bat where I was like, I didn't see a scenario where the Cardinals would go that direction, but he was someone that I really liked. Yeah,
so Tibbs just does a lot of things well. This is a guy that makes a lot of contact. The 90th percentile exit velocities, close to 108, I believe, and he was just a college performer this year. Also played very well at the Cape Cod League. So I think Tibbs was one of the more safe bats in this class. And it's a good pick for the Giants.
Yeah, man, this draft board's falling really interesting. So I'm at least, I think we should, I'm going to keep this going at least through the Cubs pick, because I kind of want to
Yeah,
I hope I get to poo on it a little bit here,
I
but
hope so.
I don't know. I'm a little. I don't even know who's on the board right now. I'm so lost now by man, the JJ. This is amazing.
Correct.
Seriously, I mean, all day I was like, man, I hope it's JJ. But I was like, I really feel like none of JJ Burns or Smith is going to be available, and it's going to be like, I mean, Montgomery's exciting, but just not like that. Like I never fully bought in.
Rainer's exciting.
Yeah, but it's just like, yeah, you're dreaming there. And Caglione, I know that would have made Andrew happy, so I've been happy for him. I think I would have been like, oh, this is fun.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But
Entering today, I really thought Bazzana was going to go 1, but I switched my decision this year. Just seeing all the mock drafts, I got suckered into it, and yeah, I'm glad that didn't happen though.
Yeah. So a couple of updates again. If we talked about this at the beginning, but if you're still hanging with us and came later, the Cardinals don't have a second round pick this year because they signed Sonny Gray. So you give out that comp pick there. Again, most within the industry don't really feel like the later, or at least like that there's kind of a drop off in that range too. So if there, I mean, you never want to lose your pick, but if there's a year not to have it, it's probably not the worst thing in the world. They also lost it last year though, without getting Contreras. So that's something that just interesting to note, that they've lost 2 top 90 or 60, 70 picks in the last 2 years. So, I mean, that always impacts with the stuff you're adding to the system. But I don't think any of us are complaining about signing Wilson Contreras or Sonny Gray right now. So if that's you, that's you. But like, I'm pretty happy with those signings. Kareem, I don't know if you want to. So I'm going to give you that if you want to opt out and say, I'd rather reveal this stuff later. But are there any guys that you'd want to talk about to keep your eye on later in the draft? The Cardinals' next pick is like 80 overall. Again, if you want to hold that off, I know you're writing some stuff too. You feel free to say, read my stuff later. But if there's some guys you want to touch on, feel free.
I'll touch on 2 guys. Both of these guys are. I went on the Rambling Redbirds podcast with Kyle Reese, Blake Newberry, and Adam Keel, and I mentioned a couple of these guys for the Cardinals' 3rd round selection. And the first guy I want to talk about is Ryan Furcucci.
Okay,
this is a guy that is such a mechanically sound pitcher. You just watch him pitch. It's a clean operation on the mound. It's a fastball that sits in the mid 90s with plus ride from a low slot. A lot of the characteristics you like to see, and characteristics the Cardinals have really targeted recently. When you look at a guy like Darlin Saladin or Zach Showalter, Cooper Jerpy, Tink Hens, all of those guys are pitchers with fastballs from a low slot that get decent amount of ride for their vertical approach angle. So I think Furcucci's a guy that has a good fastball, but it's not just stuff with him. He's got pitchability. He's got polish. I like the mechanics on the mound. He has a curveball in the high 70s. His slider is probably his second best pitch, mid 90s pitch with decent movement traits. And he has a changeup with up to 20 inches of arm side run, but he's still developing that pitch. So I think it's a 4-pitch arsenal with Furcucci, a guy that's mechanically sound, has stuff. The command is there too. And if he's available at 3, I just think that would be a really good pick for the Cardinals. And secondly, Aiden May, right-hand pitcher from Oregon State. He's a guy that's a college performer, has the best sweeper in the class. This is a guy that in the Rambling Redbirds podcast, pretty much everyone on that podcast had May circled as a guy the Cardinals should target with the 80th overall pick. So it would be cool if the Cardinals pick him, because we all had him circled as a guy they could target. And he's got a fastball that might not grade well in terms of stuff models, but it's pretty unique. The changeup's also a plus pitch, but the carrying tool with him is really that sweeper. It's one of the best in the class. And yeah, this is a guy that performed this year for Oregon State. And yeah, those are 2 arms I like for the Cardinals with the 3rd round pick.
Well, yeah, those are super interesting names to watch. Kareem's got some work coming out on our site, Redbird Reigns, as well, about some potential day 3 sleepers and people you should be looking to day 2, day 3 picks to look out for. So definitely keep your eye on that for tomorrow. And then we'll have a draft tracker as well. So if you're not necessarily interested in following the draft all the way through, if you want to keep up with that, there'll be enough reporting out there. But something that did just happen, though, the Cam Smith pick to the Cubs from Florida State.
We think.
I don't know a lot about Cam Smith, honestly. I had so much of my time and attention focused on the top 10. And then I had random favorites later in the draft. So I don't know, Kareem, Sandy, anyone got any thoughts on Cam Smith? Because I'm kind of
baseman. I don't know.
idea.
I don't know a lot about him.
I think Cam Smith's probably the best value pick in the draft outside of the Cardinals. What they just did. I love Cam Smith. He's a guy that's got 100. He's got 111 90th percentile exit velocity. Makes a lot of contact. It's a 90% zone contact, 70% outside of the strike zone contact. So he's making a ton of contact. Hits the ball hard. The one thing about Cam Smith is he doesn't particularly optimize his launch angle that well. Like it's a lot of ground balls and low line drives, so he doesn't get to his power as much as you'd like. But the contact and raw power is exceptional with him, and I didn't understand why he wasn't getting more top 10 chatter. He's offensively, he's one of my favorite players in the class, and it sucks to see the Cubs get him. But it's
not great.
Yeah.
I'm seeing some people in the chat, and it was what I was thinking when Kareem was talking, say, oh, so Jordan Walker.
Yeah, that was my thought immediately. Oh, so question, does Cam Smith slot in as a top 100 prospect in your opinion?
I think he'd be, yeah, I think he would be. But I don't know how the national outlets, I don't know how the national outlets like a Baseball America or MLB Pipeline would rank him. A lot of times they just go with the top guys on the board. And Smith, I don't think they rank Smith particularly that high. So I wouldn't expect him to be in the top 100 for them, but he would probably be in my top 100 list.
Yeah, so I'm looking, MLB.com had him 14th ranked coming in. I'm trying to figure out where Baseball America had him. I think they, draft-wise, well, I mean, mock drafts don't necessarily tell you about what they feel about the player because they're trying to predict what they think is going to happen. Did they have him falling really far? They had Cam Smith going, let's see. Man, I don't see him anywhere. Oh, they had him going 16 in the Marlins. They had him falling a little bit. I can't figure out where they had him ranked, but yeah, I mean, Cubs seem to have just continued to make, I think at least on draft night, the draft picks seem pretty solid. So I'm not surprised that people like their pick here. So I was just hoping it was going to be something that immediately I'm like, I don't know about that, but let's see. Cam Smith, they had Baseball America had him as their 16th prospect coming into the draft. So yeah, I doubt they would have him as a top 100 prospect in a draft like this, but who knows? And they had Wetherholt number 3. So
that's
come on. Oh man.
So Kareem, like what's best case scenario for the Cardinals system in terms of how things could play out for the rest of this year? Like, let's say Quinn Matthews continues to dominate. All the reports on JJ Wetherholt are really good, stuff like that. And then maybe like a couple of other pitchers pitch well. You see like Lynn continue to pitch well. Maybe Bernal has an uptick in offensive production. Like if all of that goes well, let's say the Cardinals like 80th percent as a farm system, not everyone hitting their 80th percentile because that would be exceedingly unlikely. But like as a system, if things go well, where would you rank them like over the offseason, say?
I would say still middle of the pack.
Okay. Yeah.
I think they're going to have to nail the rest of this draft, especially the position players. Obviously, JJ Wetherholt's a great start at 1.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a guy that's like, you never want to put the bust proof label on anyone, but
yeah,
if he's able to stay healthy, this guy's going to be a big leaguer. So yeah, I think the rest of this draft's going to be key for how people are going to start to rank the Cardinals as a system. And I think they're going to need a lot of these guys to hit later in the draft.
Maybe a different way to ask this is, what are some prospects? And I know you've talked about this, but again, a lot of our listeners maybe haven't heard you talk about these guys before. You've mentioned one of them already earlier, but who are a couple of names in the system right now that aren't Tink Kents, that aren't Tekoa Roby, aren't Cooper Jerby, aren't Quinn Matthews ranked high, but are guys that you're looking at, you're like, hey, a year from now, we might be really excited about X, Y, Z, these guys.
Yeah, so a guy that I just don't see get enough hype is Luis Gastelum. He's a relief pitching prospect in Palm Beach, so he's still in the lower level minors, but he has the nastiest changeup in minor league baseball. It's crazy. It's a pitch he throws almost 50% of the time, and he gets great results on it. High whiff rates. Hitters don't do any damage when they make contact on it. And this is someone that is pitching out of relief right now. I'd like to see the Cardinals stretch him out to see what it looks like out of the rotation in longer spurts. But this is a guy that's not getting any sort of recognition in terms of prospect list, and I think he deserves it, to be honest.
Okay. Is there any other guys you're kind of looking at? Again, you might have mentioned them to us before, but a lot of our listeners might not have heard you mention like DeMar or any of these other guys.
Yeah, I talked about Darlin.
Darlin, I said DeMar.
Yeah, I talked about Darlin Saladin earlier. Baseball America recently updated the Cardinals top 30 list, and he wasn't on there somehow.
Really?
Yeah, I don't understand. This is a guy that's performing like it's crazy. He performed in single A. He's pitching well in high A. The fastball is a plus pitch. It's 93 miles an hour from a flat vertical approach angle. That's a guy that needs to be on top 30 list. On my personal list right now, he's ranked 14th in the system.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he's done nothing but perform this year.
Oh, the stats are crazy. What?
Yeah, one thing about Saladin that's interesting is this is a guy that has unbelievable command of his fastball. He's consistently able to locate it at the top of the what's crazy about him is he throws the pitch right above the strike zone a lot of the time. So it's not even inside the strike zone technically, but what he consistently is able to throw it there, and hitters swing and they just can't do anything against it. So yeah, I love Saladin, and he's a guy that should 100% be on prospect list right now. I don't get it.
Oh man. I was just looking at Statler's line this year too, which obviously again minor league stats. That's not the end all be all, but man, he's been pretty filthy this year. Yeah, we are at 78 likes on the stream right now too. So if we can get it to 100, that'd be awesome. If you're in watching, we have 150, so we can clearly get it to 100 if people want to. So if you've enjoyed it, appreciate it. If you can share as well as subscribe if you haven't already, you're interested in this podcast. Another name, Kareem, that I know people, it's a little bit more trendy. Like he's not necessarily super under the radar, but maybe for the casual Cardinal fan, they've never heard of Zach Showalter before. But he's a guy that's been really interesting. Came over in the Jack Flaherty trade. What's some thoughts you've had on Showalter so far?
Yeah, so I was just talking about how Saladin has that unique fastball from a low slot, getting a solid amount of ride. Showalter's even more special in terms of just getting ride from a low slot. The vertical approach angle is crazy when he's able to locate it at the top of the strike zone. And despite having a fastball that sits in the low 90s, it's one of the best fastballs in the organization, which is just crazy. The amount of vertical movement he's able to get from his low slot, it's just crazy. And the way he's able to get low on the mound, he almost pushes the ball. It's just weird. And I like Showalter a lot. He's currently pitching in relief. He's been Palm Beach's closer for most of the season, pitching mostly one inning. I do think this is someone that should get a look as a starter down the line, but I understand if the Cardinals are being a little cautious with him this year, just because he's had some injury issues in the past. And yeah, if he's definitely another guy that's underrated in the system. And I have him as the 12th prospect in the Cardinal system.
Interesting. Okay. Real quick, we'll get back to that because I know Jose Suarez is a guy you like, and I just saw him in the chat as well. So we'll get on to him. But I want to get your thoughts. I cannot remember how to say his name. I was looking it up the other day because I was like, he's really interesting. But the switch-handed pitcher from Mississippi State just went to the Mariners of all teams too. So I'm like, if there's a team to develop a pitcher like that, you probably want it to be the Mariners, Rays, something like that. I don't know much about him other than when I see it, I'm like, whoa, like that would be wild if he could. Because I know who was the switch-handed reliever that was there for a minute.
Venditti.
Yeah, Venditti, which is
terrible.
But I mean, if you're picking a switch-hand pitcher in the first round, you're hoping he's a lot better than that. Kareem, do you have any thoughts on him at all?
Yeah, I think Cinchi is how you pronounce it.
I think.
Yeah, so
he ranked on these boards. Like I didn't.
He was in like the 20 range, I think. A lot of people had him mocked to Atlanta.
Interesting.
That would have been gross.
But yeah, this is a guy that has a mid-90s fastball, wipeout slider. he throws from a lower than average release height with plus ride. So, similar to what we were just talking about. So his fastball is a pretty unique shape. Much better from the right side than left side. I'll be interested to see how the Mariners handle if he's even going to pitch with his left hand at all, because he's just so much better with his right hand. But this is a guy that's very talented. I liked him a lot.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was watching some of his highlights the other day, and it feels like, MLB Network just put it up too. I was gonna say I felt like his slider was really interesting from the left side, which is you can't really switch it up and down a pass, so that doesn't really matter. But it'll be interesting to see if they can let him go switch here. But a couple questions still going in the chat, and then I think we could probably wrap this up kind of soon too. But Jose Suarez, though, Kareem, I know is another prospect that you've been pretty high on in the past. So is he a guy that you would want Cardinal fans to be keeping their eye out for?
Yeah, Jose Suarez recently was promoted a couple weeks ago to Palm Beach, and all he's done since his promotion is hit balls 100 plus miles an hour.
Oh, so love to see that.
Yeah, this is a guy with crazy raw power. He gets to it in games. He's been mostly hitting the ball. When he does connect, he hasn't pulled the ball particularly well. It's a lot of line drives to center field and right field, which is something I'll monitor. But this is a guy with a really impressive raw power tool, and the rest is a work in progress. He needs to make more contact. The swing decisions are mediocre at best, but this is another guy that's like pretty athletic too. His just having access to his sprint speed data, he had a few sprints where he got up to 29 feet per second. So this is a guy that's a pretty good athlete too. I do think he fits best as a corner outfielder, but yeah, I think Suarez is someone that you should definitely keep your eyes on. He's still only 19 years old, so very young guy, and to see him have success at single A already, it's very encouraging.
I have another question about a guy in the system who's risen up some boards this year. How do you feel about Cesar Prieto? It feels like he's kind of changed his outlook. I know when he came over, it was like, this is an organizational depth piece. Not the headliner in the Jack Flaherty trade, if there really was a headliner. And to see both him and Showalter kind of boom for the Cardinals is really exciting. But he's been awesome with Memphis this year. I know that we don't, like, minor league stats aren't everything. If they were, Moises Gomez would be Barry Bonds, right? Like, we know that. Luken Baker would be Aaron Judge. But Prieto's hitting over 300 this year. He's slugging nearly 500, which is a huge jump from where he was before. His OPS is up to 842 on the season, which is really encouraging. He seems to not be striking out very often. Like, how do you feel about him? How high is his floor at this point? Is he a major league player now? And where does he fit with the Cardinals?
Yeah, I do think Prieto is a major league caliber player. And it's nice to see him take that step up in terms of power production, because that was probably his weakest. Yeah. In terms of offensive profile, at least, that was his weakest tool, right? This is a guy that's making so much contact. He has an aggressive approach, chases a lot. But the thing with him is when he chases, he's making contact. So I think a lot of people, obviously the most ideal archetype is someone that's going to stay outside, like not chase pitches outside of the strike zone, make contact with power. But a guy like Prieto, when he swings outside of the strike zone, he's hitting the ball better than the average person. So I wouldn't even necessarily say that's like a red flag in his game. And watching the draft, Jack Caglione's similar in that sense. A guy that everyone's worried about the 40% chase rate, but this is a guy that's making so much contact inside and outside of the strike zone, which is ridiculous with the power he has. Like, it's crazy. This guy hits balls 120 miles an hour and consistently makes contact with a 40% chase rate. So
you can live with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I got carried off track there.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, Prieto, I like him a lot. I think this is a guy that's going to at least be around 100 WRC plus, maybe 105 at the major leagues. And defensively, I think he's looked a lot better this year. I think he can handle second and third at least adequately. So, yeah, I think Prieto could be a nice little utility option on the bench, someone that's going to play more than the average bench bat. You know what I mean?
That's
Yeah.
awesome for the Cardinals because he came over and like it wasn't anything. The fact that they may have gotten Showalter and Prieto, who could both be major league players for a couple of weeks of Jack Flaherty, and like not good Jack Flaherty, not Tigers Jack Flaherty, is pretty nuts. One more question I have here is, oh my goodness, I just lost what I was going to ask you. Oh, okay. Catching is a point of strength in the Cardinals system, right? Pick a catching prospect who you are most interested in outside of Bernal. Like Bernal obviously is kind of the guy, but it seems like between Sammy Hernandez, Jimmy Crooks, there are a couple guys that we can kind of dream on. So who do you like on that front?
Yeah, so I'll touch on Sammy Hernandez a little bit first. He's a guy that makes a lot of contact, and what's special about him is he's a very good defender. This is a guy that just he has great receiving skills, solid arm strength. But the one thing about him, like the raw power isn't there. I don't know if he has enough power to necessarily be this guy that should be on top 30 prospect list.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's got an impressive hit tool. He's definitely going to be someone I watch develop because if he can add a little bit more power, I think he'll be more intriguing. But it's a guy with contact skills and a pretty good defensive profile. Now, I absolutely love Jimmy Crooks. He's my favorite catcher in the system.
Wow,
I actually have him.
Bernal?
Yeah, I have him over Bernal. So Crooks, he's one of the best line drive hitters in all of minor league baseball. He's consistently hitting line drives. He's not popping out much. It's just a guy that, in terms of like sweet spot rate, just hitting the barrel of the bat and consistently putting it in spots where guys aren't going to field it. Like he does an exceptional job at that. He's making a lot of contact. Defensively, I like his profile a lot too. The receiving skills are pretty good. A little inconsistent this year at times, but overall, just watching him throughout his professional career, I think he's a plus defender with a slightly above average arm strength too. So he has that full profile. I think he's a plus defensive catcher with a really carrying hit tool, and his ability to just hit line drives is really what makes him appealing to me.
Wow. I mean, he's got that 900 OPS at AA already. Do you see him moving through the system quickly? And like, what's his ceiling as a prospect? Is he a guy that could at some point rise into a top 100 prospects? Could he be like a top 5 prospect in the system within the next few years?
I don't know if Crooks will ever garner top 100 prospect hype just because like the power isn't quite there. He doesn't consistently, hit the ball to his pull side in the air. This is a guy with a very impressive hit tool. He's played well his whole professional career. Like you're taking a look at what he did at single A his first year, 149 WRC plus. Last year at high A, 122 WRC plus. And so far this year at double A, 146 WRC plus. Wow. He's still only 22 years old. So I like the bat. There are some concerns with him in terms of just hitting left-hand pitching. This might be a guy that's going to be a platoon option at the big league level, but I do think he's going to be able to hit right-hand pitching, and I like the defense too, so that makes him a pretty valuable player.
Sweet. All right.
Hey, I think this is probably important to share a couple of quotes, one from JJ Wetherholt himself, and then another one from Randy Flores. So JJ Wetherholt, if you didn't hear him say this from the stage, because I didn't, we were freaking out earlier. Katie Wu tweeted out, this is JJ Wetherholt. He goes, "They're getting a baller, man. I can do it all. I can do a little bit of everything, and I'm a learner." Yes. The aura with this guy. I love the confidence. And the Randy Flores on getting Wetherholt at 7. Not only on our board was he extremely high, but other third-party publications had him going as high as anyone. As the draft unfolds, we were very excited about the opportunity to select him, which, he's not going to tell you, whoa, we're disappointed we got this player. Obviously, he's excited, but I think the Cardinals are clearly excited here. You heard Randy Flores say, I think it was on yesterday's broadcast at Bally Sports, this is really the first time they've ever come into a first round and only had 10 guys on their board, right? They had a clear, these are the guys we like. Wetherholt, I don't know where they would have him versus Bizana and Condon and stuff like that, but clearly he was probably at least in their top 3, if not their number 1 guy going into this. And man, to get him at number 7, it's just wild. So I know we're talking about some other prospect stuff, but obviously the talk of the night is JJ Wetherholt going number 7 overall to the St. Louis Cardinals, adding top 100 prospect at least to their system currently already, probably their number 1 prospect above Team Kent's. what an exciting day to add to the system here. Another quote from Randy Flores, looking on his batting line in the back of the baseball card, is that he's a hit and always will hit guy. What was impressive to our scouting group this summer was what he did against the best competition. Oh, sorry, I cut off the rest of the quote here. What he did against the best competition, and he did it while nursing some soreness. Oftentimes in this day and age, it's natural that players only want to play when they're 100%. But even though he was limited physically, he was taking at bats and DHing, which I think that's actually something really interesting as well to think about. Is like Wetherholt made his way back from this hamstring injury. He wasn't fully healthy, but he was still willing to contribute. Like, I don't know how much of that helped his stock to come back. It probably did, but you could have seen him be like, oh, I'm going to take it easy. I don't want to get hurt, make it worse, and fall down boards even more. He's a gamer, right? He wants to play. And so that's something I'm not going to name names here, but Cardinal fans have gotten pretty frustrated with over the years of players not wanting to play when they don't feel the best. So at least it doesn't seem like JJ Wetherholt's one of those guys. So also he wears a cowboy hat and a bolo tie. So you got to love that. I just try to imagine him and like Mason Wynn in the clubhouse and like Miles. Well, I guess Miles Michaels will be there at that point, but there's some fun personalities.
I hope he's not.
What a hater. Okay, you're a hater, Andrew.
Me? Miles Michaelis?
Actually, Josh is a Miles Michaelis hater. That's true.
I mean, he was terrible yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, it was today, and I was there.
Today.
It was awful watching him give the 4 bombs. I love Miles, though. I want to see Miles and JJ hang out. I feel like that'd be fun.
Oh, man. JJ seems like a good dude, so excited to add him to the system. I think we're probably pretty good to wrap up here. We're almost at about 2 hours on here. So again, a couple of sponsors thankful for this on the podcast is 314 Sports Cards Collectibles. Again, you can find them in St. Louis. Instagram is a great place to figure out the deals they have on sports cards, Pokemon cards, all that kind of stuff. Make sure you let them know that that you heard about them from us. If you're in the market for some sports cards, who knows? Maybe, I don't know how long it'll take for a JJ Wetherholt card to come, but when they're there, they'll have them, I'm sure. Again, we also have our SeatGeek code as well. So if you never used SeatGeek before, you can use it on baseball games, to do a Cardinal game, you can go to a concert, all these type of things. And with our promo code Newt News, if it's your first purchase ever on there, you get $20 off a $50 or more purchase, which is pretty awesome, right? If you're going out to a game with a friend or something, you get a $20 discount on the tickets. But you have to use the code Newt News, which is our former podcast name, to do that as well. So those are just some 2 sponsors we want to thank tonight for joining us, or to sponsoring this podcast, obviously. I want to really thank Kareem, dude. Thanks for being on here and giving some of your time tonight. It was so fun to watch you, like the excitement to build of like Wetherholt doesn't go number 1. It's like, oh, like we could see. And then it just kept coming truer and truer. Andrew, as always, we don't give him enough like shout outs on here, but Andrew is the graphics, social media, video guy king, like all the stuff he puts out there. Sandy and I don't do that. We're not good at that stuff. Andrew does it all. So all the graphics you saw pop up throughout the stream, that's Andrew right there. And so he's playing a little bit injured tonight too. So he's going back and forth doing that. Sandy, as always, you're just always fun to talk ball with you. It's fun to talk ball
right now.
The best part about having Sandy on for stuff like this is that he can convince himself Michael McGreevy is like a number 3 starter. Like any prospect.
Don't say that.
Kareem's gonna like temper expectations, and
True.
Sandy's like, tell me how the Cardinals have the number 1 system in baseball and have 50 top 100 prospects, because that's what I see.
They have a middling farm system, Sandy. That's what I'm gonna say.
I have Cardinal colored glasses. Okay.
I love
Even
it.
with Cardinal colored glasses, you couldn't see Michael Ciani coming. So,
Dude,
That's true.
I was such a hater, and I'm sorry, Michael. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about him, but everyone seemed to hate him. So I was kind of like, oh yeah, this guy's probably sucks. But no,
Yeah, on the
he's
apology
pretty
form,
awesome.
you can just fill out Sandy convinced me he was trash. Blame me.
Oh man. Oh, one maybe we didn't talk about him, but real quick before we head out, two guys that if you want to briefly touch on, Kareem, because I think people are pretty concerned about Thomas DeJC for a lot of this year. Seems like he's been catching on a little bit lately, but what are some of your thoughts on DeJC's year? And then obviously the rise of Quinn Matthews. Can you maybe put what are your expectations, and what's your like evaluation of a Quinn Matthews right now? Because especially coming out of the draft last year, I don't think anyone saw something like this coming out of him. So just your current thoughts on 2 of the more high profile Cardinals prospects right now, then we'll get out of here.
Firstly, touching on Thomas DeJC, I think this is a guy that's just playing the gap between AA and AAA is like bigger than people realize. And DeJC has always been a breaking ball kind of hitter, and he's going up against better breaking balls at AAA. This is a guy that needs to work on like his just ability to hit velocity, I think. And that's something I just noticed at AAA so far this year. And so JC is a guy that has like a very aggressive approach. And I think pitchers are just taking more advantage of that, to be honest. Am I worried about this long term? Not really. I think JC is going to be a productive big leaguer. And I think when you look at the Cardinals system, I think he's one of the safer bets to just be a major league bat. And so, yeah, those are my thoughts on JC real quick. And he has been playing better of late, which is encouraging to see. Now, Quinn Matthews is a guy that I didn't see him, sitting mid-90s with his fastball. Like, that's just crazy to me, still thinking about that. Because when the Cardinals drafted him last year, I thought he just fit the prototypical mold of like a pitchability left-hander, someone like a Bryson Motts or a Pete Hansen, someone of that caliber. And like entering the season, like this wasn't even a guy that I had on my top 30 prospects. Like I didn't see him being productive at the next level with a fastball that sat in the low 90s, but he's now sitting mid 90s with it, which is crazy considering he gets 18 inches of ride from a lower than average release height. So again, another vertical approach angle monster. The slider is taking a step up, much like the fastball. The velocity is a little higher, and the changeup is a plus pitch, much like it was in college. So he's got a 3-pitch mix. The stuff's taken a huge uptick this year, and he already has solid command and pitchability. So this is a guy that's should be getting top 100 love, and he is, and that's great to see.
Yeah, it's super exciting, and I'm just it's kind of crazy to think the way that he's risen so far, and obviously he looked really awesome during the Futures game, and he's just been awesome this year. Another quote from JJ Wetherholt: "It's on St. Louis. It's a baseball city. They're winners, and I'm super excited to join the family. I know that they have a great staff and a great farm system, and I know they're going to make me a better player. So I'm super excited to go there and see what they have for me." And then I saw in the chat, I'm trying to get some clarity on what Randy Flores meant by that, but someone said Randy Flores. Okay,
I think he's ready to like play in the minors.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, I would be really shocked if Randy Flores was going to put that kind of pressure on him already. Not that he would. That I wasn't saying that was going to happen, but the kind of hype he was. But seems like they have no concern health wise with JJ being ready to play right now. So that's a good sign. And it's probably one of the underrated things too about picking a position player here is like last year Quinn Matthews didn't throw a pitch, right? Usually, at this time of the year with how many miles arms have put on these college arms already put on or high school arms, you're not going to usually see them throw much in the year that they're drafted. But a guy like JJ can go ahead and jump in the system and get some at bats going. So it'll be interesting to see what he can kind of do from there. But again, really fun stream. Everyone, I gave all the shout outs and thanks to Andrew and Kareem and Sandy for their awesome work on this. But really, it's you guys who listen to us and subscribe and tune in, and we really appreciate it. And we wouldn't be able to continue to do this without your support. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, we'll go live probably. I don't know what this week will look like with the All-Star break, but we'll let you guys know what the posting schedule looks like. Kareem, anything you want to plug other than I know you've got a story coming out about some day 2 and day 3 sleepers, but any other stuff you want to talk about?
If you're not in the Cardinals Prospects X community, be sure to join that. If you just look up my Twitter, Kareem SSN, I have it linked in my bio. So if you want to check that out, it's a great place to just chat about Cardinals prospects and yeah.
Yeah. We have some fun video content other than even the typical podcast stuff that we're working on. So keep an eye out for that. Just started a podcast with Brendan Schaefer called Philosophical Differences. So you can go check that out on his channel. We'll usually do those on Fridays. We're not taking away at all from what we're doing here dealing the cards, but I think that'll just be fun to do alongside as well. Again, thanks for tuning in tonight. Make sure to check out 314 for Sports Collectibles. Check out our SeatGeek code as well if you're planning on going to Busch Stadium for a game or a concert or anything like that. Andrew, Sandy, anything you guys want to finish out with or call it a night?
Yeah, I'm looking into getting into the gaming scene, maybe make some Cardinals team builds for you guys. And I just saw that Jack Caglianone's getting a 98 draft card that can pitch. So I'm excited. And I'm going to add him to my team as soon as I can.
Oh, that is great. Also, Cody, yes, we are planning. We haven't announced anything yet, but we are planning on trying to do something like this during the trade deadline.
It's gonna be awesome.
Which will be fun because we can talk about the moves around the National League and stuff as well. But then obviously we're hoping the Cardinals can make some kind of swing. What kind of swing? I don't know. We'll see. But at least tonight we could be really excited about what they pulled off with JJ Wetherholt going number 7 overall to the St. Louis Cardinals. What a night. Again, thanks for tuning into the live stream. We've had like 270 people in here at one point, so that was super fun. It's been a fun chatter. I know on stuff like this, we have so many people, it's hard to keep up with the comments, but we really do appreciate all of them. Follow us on Twitter. If you become a member of the channel as well, we have a Discord where we get a little bit, there's less people in there, so you can have more fun conversations like that. But again, thanks for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Keep an eye out for our next episode and all the stuff coming on with D on the Cards. But we'll see you guys next time.